You already know what time it is, man. The young goat in the building. Make sure you tune in to Tru Heel Heat podcast.
Oye, te habla tío Sabio Vega. This is Sabio Vega and you watching Tru Heel Heat a mi manera o pa' la calle.
Yo, what up? You know what it is. It's your boy AJ Francis reporting to you live from New York City, the birthplace of hip-hop. And I'm telling you that I'm only tuned in with Tru Heel Heat Wrestling. Holla at me.
Hello everyone, it's the hardcore legend Mick Foley wishing a nice day to everyone there, right there at Tru Heel Heat. Yeah!
Y'all know what time it is. It is time for the Saturday morning cookout. The Tru Heel Heat flagship podcast is live. We've had Grand Slams. We'll have Destruction this weekend, as well as another Grand Slam. But we have a lot of news to discuss, including Tony Khan extending Rey Fenix's contract due to injury time. And is it the right move, a petty move, or a business move? We're going to discuss all of that. It was this week that the long-awaited Vince McMahon documentary was released. And before we do a full review on the channel, we'll give our quick thoughts about it. I just finished watching it this morning, and boy, oh boy, if I'm Vince McMahon's lawyer, I'm going to need a pay raise. This is the Tru Heel Heat flagship podcast. Let's get to it. Hello. It is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. We are live on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for Tru Heel Heat 296 exposés and hostage situations, discussing the latest wrestling news, including Tony Khan and AEW's decision to add injury time to Rey Fenix's contract to block the Lucha Bros from going to WWE. Vince McMahon saying his Netflix docuseries misrepresented him and the fallout from the release this week. Plus, we got a recap of this week in wrestling with AEW Dynamite Grand Slam featuring Young Bucks and United Empire in one of the best tag team matches of the year, and MVP bringing Hurt Syndicate to AEW, Collision, Rampage, ROH TV, WWE SmackDown featuring Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens' friendship getting more tense as Cody's about to team with Roman Raw, featuring Jey Uso winning his first singles title, NXT, TNA Impact, the best and worst of the week. We got New Japan Destruction in Kobe this tomorrow morning as well. But I am not joined by the usual suspects. We had the OG trio on last week's show. We had the True Josh, as always, on last week's show. But everybody's got the week off, so I have two very special guests with me, joining me for the Saturday morning cookout. You met him if it was for the first time, or you got re-familiar with him on last week's show. He is the host of the best and biggest pro wrestling podcast in Las Vegas and radio show in Las Vegas. The one and only Mark Hoke is back. How are you doing, Mark?
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Actually, survived a car accident a couple days ago. Yeah.
Oh, Godspeed.
Yeah,
well, damn.
Yeah, I got lucky. Because I'm such a great driver and everybody else here sucks. I barely dinged my car, but could have been a lot worse. So, yeah, still PTSDing on that a little bit, but otherwise I'm good.
Well, we are glad you were here with us. The wrestling gods and the God himself, we're looking down on you. I'm glad you're here and you're all right, man.
No doubt. I just went down to Pahrump and find that woman's house and spray paint some stuff on it. She wasn't very nice.
Shut it.
And she sucked. She sucked.
Must be blind.
Oh my.
But yes, we also got with us another special guest, another person that you're familiar with if you watch the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel or been here for the flagship podcast. He's joined us for a few of our big ones, whether it was Sasha Banks and Naomi walking out in 2022. We've had him on many different editions of the flagship, the one and only co-host from the N.W.A. podcast on Post Wrestling, as well as one of the writers over at WrestleNomics and the professor of all things professional wrestling. Professor Kris is here with us. How you doing?
Hey man, I'm chilling behind on all my wrestling, but I did speed watch a few things this morning, so I should be good for the show.
Glad you are here with us today, good brother. It's been too long. It's been too long that we had you on the flagship. We usually have them on our AEW reviews when you're not teaching and doing everything else you do, but I'm glad to have you on the flagship today. But awesome. We appreciate y'all if you are joining us live. We appreciate y'all if you're watching us on demand. Remember to show your appreciation back the simplest way possible. Drop the thumbs up on this video. You can share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. And of course, if you're watching us live, sound off in the live chat. We love to interact with all of you guys and hear your thoughts on this week in wrestling, because we have a lot to discuss, whether it's the Vince McMahon docuseries, whether it's Grand Slam, and whether it's all of the news. So we want to hear from all of you, but to make sure your comment is highlighted on screen and give back to what we do here at the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, you could send a super chat donation. Any dollar amount matters. It goes back to the contributors that you see on screen with us here, and we always appreciate that support. We also got in the chat already Eric Isaac, who says, hello, THH fam. October is shaping up to be one of the eventful months of wrestling, for sure. You know, you got the NXT CW premiere coming up. You got AEW Dynamite's 5-year anniversary. Then we got Bad Blood and Wrestle Dream. So a lot of the stuff are going to be out the way early in the month, but there's a lot that's going to come throughout the month of October. So you're 100% right. Eric Isaacs. We got Chuck Berry's in the chat, who says, what's good, THH fam? Thoughts and prayers to the hurricane victims down south. Yes. I know a lot of people going through it. Shout out to Dutch Mantel, who he said he got hit, not as bad as everybody else, but man, I've been seeing pictures of like just mountains and mountains of water because of like the hurricanes and stuff. Have y'all been seeing all of that?
Like most of my Jamaican family members live in that area, so you know I'm gonna try to reach out to them when we get off of here. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I'm hope our thoughts and prayers to everyone who's going through that, because that's a lot to deal with for sure. We got Frantic World in the chat with us today. So what's up, THH and chat? We also got Blue Ranger Kris, who says, what's up, Tru Heel family? Greetings from London. Let's talk some grabs. Good to see you in the chat today.
Cheerio.
You should have said that to me. I'm representing.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
I'm officially, British. I've been here too long.
We got your nipples. I'm sorry.
Fair, or as my daughter calls it, the boobas. The boobas. That's what she says. We got I Make Beats, another one over in the UK who says hello. We also got Frantic World who says, man, some WWE fans are crashing out on Twitter because of the AEW Fox news from Swerve. Yo, Swerve, he's a funny dude. He broke the news on Queen's Flip. Queen's Flip.
Yeah, no, I saw. He was on the Breakfast Club also. I was listening to that in my car. I don't normally listen to the Breakfast Club because I'm not a fan of those guys, but I was listening to that. But he broke it on Queen's Flip. That was really bizarre.
Should have broke it to me on my show. That son of a gun. I'm gonna have to talk to him about it.
He should come on Tru Heel Heat, come talk to us. But it was revealed yesterday from my good friend Jimmy McMahon, who has compared Swerve to Uncle Ruckus in the past. He's got blocked on Twitter. So shout out to Swerve because Jimmy deserved it.
Yeah.
I don't even know what happened, but I agree.
We got Jaleel in the chat who says, hello, everyone. We got Power Driver Finisher who says, morning, y'all. We got Bell who says, SP3, don't make me side eye you saying you British with that. I'm still American. I'm still a New Yorker at my heart. I say coffee a certain way, but I've been a resident for what feels like a year, but it's only been like 5 months.
A long time though.
It is half a year. We gotta shout out everyone supporting us across social media and here on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel, as well as our Patreon with our Tru Heel roll call, our top 3 conversation starters over on our Tru Heels group page. You got Ivan Rosa, we got number 2, Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting once again, and number 1 once again is Neil Benedict. Our Patreon backers, Vala B, Alan Weinstein, Nero Bucknick Jackson, Alex McCarthy, Professor Kris himself, Trey, Robert, Steve, Ladarius, John, aka Russell Scopes, Dan, Kobe, Dolores, John Martin, DJ Eric, Marcus, James, Allen, and Santo. Thank you so much for supporting us over at patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. $3 a month is the best way to support us when we are not live here on the channel. But let's get into everything going on in the professional wrestling world. And we're going to start off with what we missed. And we'll start off with AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, one of the biggest Dynamite episodes of the year, and of course did pretty well in the ratings, so well from 2024 standards for AEW. It was up above 700,000 viewers for the week, 702 to be exact. And the show featured and opened with AEW World Champion Bryan Danielson defeating Nigel McGuinness in what was a great opener to the show, rekindling their 18-year odyssey, their 18-year rivalry that dated back from Ring of Honor. Nigel McGuinness is in some of the best shape of his life, even better than his prime years of his career, I think, in my opinion. But these two guys turned back the clock with the opener on Dynamite this week. Christian Cage attempted to cash in his Casino Gauntlet contract, but unfortunately Kip Sabian denied him of that, and he ran off from Pac and Claudio Castagnoli after that. But in what was, I think by far the match of the night, the Young Bucks beat Kyle Fletcher and Will Ospreay in what was a spectacular tag team encounter to retain the AEW World Tag Team Championships after Ospreay didn't want to use the Don Callis screwdriver and cost them the win as they failed to dethrone Matthew and Nicholas Jackson here. And what many people would call the biggest moment on this show, you had MVP making his AEW debut interrupting Prince Nana's update on Swerve Strickland, talking up the former AEW World Champion, and then saying that the only failure he's had is in his management for his recent losses at All In, All Out, and his house being burnt down, and gave Nana his card if he wants to talk some business. Then you also had Hook, who retired the FTW championship after coming out victorious against Roderick Strong in a solid bout, showing respect to Roddy in the post-match, but then retiring the title that his father created in Queens, New York in 1998 and handing it over to Taz to end this chapter of that title. And then you also had Mariah May. She picked up the win over Yuka Sakazaki to retain the AEW Women's World Championship. Post-match, Willow Nightingale stopped Mariah from attacking Yuka until Mina Shirakawa made her return to AEW to accidentally distract Willow from May to attack her with the AEW Women's World title belt. And finally, in the main event, it was Jon Moxley defeating Darby Allin in what was an excellent main event matchup to become the new #1 contender for the AEW World Championship. He will now move on to face Bryan Danielson in his home state of Washington at Wrestle Dream. Post-match, you had Danielson attack Moxley with a damn necktie like he was Justin Roberts, attempting to choke him out in the same fashion or similar fashion to what Moxley did to him at All Out before Marina Shafir, Claudio Castagnoli, and Pac pulled him off. This led to Commander and Private Party trying to make the save for Bryan before Bryan cut a fired-up promo to tell Mox that he was going to kick his fucking head in come Wrestle Dream. It was a very noteworthy show, very wrestling-heavy show, but did set up the next main event for the next pay-per-view for AEW. We'll start with Mark. What did you think of Dynamite Grand Slam on Wednesday?
Oh, the wrestling was great. No doubt about that. Some terrific matches. It was good to see Nigel look so good. Big fan of his. Tag match was incredible. Mariah May, marry me. What more could you say about her? Dear God. Moxley. I tell you, Moxley. One thing that's really stood out to me, Moxley looked so strong against Darby Allin. I mean, everything he did was stiff, powerful. Every time Darby fought back, Mox just swatted him away like a bug. I mean, Moxley looked good. MVP showing up. I was looking for a little more, but he's there. So the gate's open. But overall, great show. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, definitely agree with everything you said, except for the Mariah May part. I'm already married. I'm happily married, so I'm not going to get in trouble.
She might be worth moving to like Saudi Arabia or something like that, where you can have multiple wives. SB3.
I mean, you could be Mormon. You just have to move to Utah. You don't have to move that far.
It's questionable there, but
yeah, it's still against federal law.
But Chris,
but come on,
wow! What did you think about Grand Slam on Wednesday?
Okay, so I watched the clips and what I saw was good. I was genuinely surprised that MVP showed up. And I didn't mind how they did it. I actually liked the way he came through on this episode because they didn't have any music for him or anything. He just kind of walks out and you kind of have to, is that MVP thing before you realize it's him? And I think the crowd was like that. So I thought that was cool. I was of the belief with Darby Allin and Mox that Darby should have won only because he always does these kind of like stupid things where he gives up shots. And
what's he thinking?
Yeah, but it's. I thought if he would have won and what's his name, Mox would have went like crazier. I would have liked that to kind of see him like unravel in that way. But it was cool. The FTW title, okay, it's something. Yeah, it'll come back when they need it.
It was a cool moment though.
Yeah,
him giving the belt to Taz.
Yeah,
I
mean, it was a touching moment giving it to his dad, but like the belt itself, I've always kind of thought it was just, you know, extra trinkets to have around. And then what else? Those are pretty much the most noteworthy things on my part. I do think that like him retiring that belt probably means he's gonna go after Jack Perry for his title, or he's gonna graduate up, or they know he's gonna go to NXT when his contract is out, so they're just
we're gonna start that already.
I mean, I won't say. I thought this match was one of his better matches. Up there, it was a good
match.
Yeah.
Up there with this match with Samoa Joe earlier this year, but there hasn't been much that has changed from Hook. And I don't know if he needs like a scenery change or something, because he feels like he's the same ability that he had 2 years ago. He hasn't progressed past that. He hasn't evolved past that. He still does those things that he did well initially when he just started off in his career, but he hasn't progressed or improved in any significant way. Where in comparison, I think I've made this comparison before, like back in like 2021, 2022, we were all sitting up here saying that Hook is much better than Dominic Mysterio, but Dominic Mysterio has improved so much in the past 2 years that he's kind of done a lap around what Hook has done.
Yeah, and in Hook's defense, he was in that Jericho Vortex stuff for probably longer than he should have been. I definitely would. I'm not saying he should go to NXT or WWE, but it is something for him to think about, because he's still not progressed in the way that I think he probably should progress. I'm not a fan of Hook, but I know other people are, and I think when people like naturally like a wrestler, that's hard to come by. So you gotta figure out something salient to do with the dude.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'll say about Hook though too is he's really progressed in terms of his promos. Now, he's sounding a lot better, and with a guy who's got that natural ability, and he's an incredible athlete, you know, that was a place where he was lacking. So I think to see him take steps in that direction, because that's where I thought he was, you know, just wasn't there yet. You know, I mean, the guy's got good movesets. He's works strong in the ring, but you know, it was kind of like keep him silent because it wasn't going. Now he's gotten his chops a little bit. So I'm excited to see what they do with him. I mean, he's still really young, so plenty of time for little Hookster.
Yeah, like I was a big fan of his father, Luke Perry, because I'm a James Dean fan as well, and Luke Perry was kind of an offshoot of what James Dean did. And the thing about James Dean in like movies like Rebel Without a Cause is you could be the bad boy silent type, but eventually you have to start peeling back layers to see that you got like a vulnerable side, a caring side, a funny side. And I just don't think they've done that with Hook. He's just kind of been there eating his chips. His promos have gotten better, but I mean, I think a good promo is indicative of the things around you that you're working with. And I think his environment hasn't been the greatest for him at the moment.
Yeah. And you talked about MVP too. And I just wish the whole gang would have walked out together at some point.
Yeah, that's what
I'm serious. I mean, I'm not.
I liked it. I honestly,
it was okay.
I liked it because it's a great thing to get you more intrigued. I like things with AEW when they do setup and delivery. Just them coming out and confronting Anana and jumping Nana, I don't think that would have been an effective way to debut the whole group. But I thought it was effective with MVP coming out because it got everybody talking like, oh, what's next? Or we know what's next. Or okay, like, when Swerve comes back, is Swerve going to join up with the Hurt Syndicate? Is he going to be against the Hurt Syndicate? When you create a segment that has that many questions coming out of it, I think that's an effective pro wrestling segment.
Yeah, it was fun. I guess I kind of have my heart set on seeing all those guys.
Yeah,
on the Dynamite episode. So yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm okay. I will be patient.
I think a lot of us had our own ideas for MVP when he went to AEW. First of all, I had no clue because I hadn't read any wrestling news that he and WWE were like completely dissolved. I saw the back and forth between him and Triple H, but I do agree with Sid. I think what they did was probably the best thing because I'm already seeing people on my Twitter just talking about all the different possibilities with him. I pretty much because I actually messaged Lashley on Facebook just to see if he would respond because back when he was in the day he would respond to things and then he stopped kind of being active on there. But I did message him and I was like, "Are you done with WWE?" And he says, "This was about maybe 3 weeks ago," and he says, "Stay tuned," and that's all he said. So he didn't really give me much on that, but I do think Lashley and MVP, I think they kind of belong together.
Lashley needs him.
I think
Lashley needs him.
I think people don't give Lashley his credit in that situation though. I think like with MVP, I think the best person he's managed has been Lashley. I think Lashley kind of gives credence to anything that kind of heavy behind you gives you credit that you normally wouldn't have. So I don't think
they need each other. I
agree. I do agree.
They are a great pair together because we've seen with MVP when they just tried to throw him with Omos. He did well with building up Omos, but he really didn't go anywhere. And yes, MVP's worked well with like the Cedric Alexanders and Shelton Benjamins of the world, but you're 100%. I think Chris 100% right. Them together is like the perfect act. Like they just maximize what each other can do. And yes, and Bobby Lashley's been effective on his own. Like I loved his run in TNA as like the dominator and the world beater, holding all the TNA championships. And he had a pretty good run after him and MVP dissolved their relationship in WWE. But him with MVP, the Hurt Business, that was like the peak of Bobby Lashley in WWE. And it can be something close to that in AEW, but I think that the act overall, it needs someone young that they can put with them, that it's elevating someone else to their level, whether it be a Powerhouse Hobbs. We saw he was backstage watching his promo, or even someone like an EJ Nduka. EJ Nduka just has a fantastic look. You look at him and you're like, yeah, that guy's a pro wrestler. He's tall, he's muscular, and he needs someone like MVP who can be very valuable to someone young because of his experience, because of his talking ability. He can help someone like an EJ Nduka. I think that, everybody will say Powerhouse Hobbs, but I don't think Powerhouse Hobbs needs him as much as someone like an EJ Nduka does. I think Powerhouse Hobbs is one away, but with MVP, Powerhouse Hobbs would be an automatic main eventer in like a year to me.
Oh, could you imagine that? Could you imagine a tag team with Lashley and Hobbs?
Running roughshod, like
dead. I'm just gonna flex and kill you.
Yeah, and the fact that MVP and Lashley have taken that act across promotions because they were in TNA, and that was a great act in TNA, and it was a great act in WWE, and I think in AEW, I've got no reason to believe it won't be great there too, unless TK just overthinks it, which he could do, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
I think he's going to turn him loose. I think
Yeah.
the Hurt Business for some reason was restrained in WWE. And I think Tony's going to look at what happened there and say, you know what? Here's the stage, fellas. Do your thing. And that's one great thing. Tony has his faults, but one thing he does is he lets his performers have flexibility in what they're doing. And I have a feeling that when you get that group together, it's Shelton Benjamin, Lashley, and whoever else they bring in, he's going to let them be who they are, and Shelton Benjamin's going to shine too. I think this is going to be a blast.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah, very excited for that. And it looks like they are coming into AEW at a time where some other people we even talked about it last week, that we thought that some other people were about to leave, but apparently that is not the case. Speaking of Tony Khan, it was reported last week that the Lucha Bros, Penta El Zero Miedo, and Rey Fenix had signed a deal with WWE. The reports claim that the pair would go straight to the main roster after signing a multi-year contract with the company. However, it appears that is not the case. It was reported right after we were done with Tru Heel Heat last week. PW Insider and Fightful Select both report that the pair have not only not signed with WWE, but they were still under contract with All Elite Wrestling. There is interest in the tag team from WWE, but they have to be free and clear of their AEW obligations first. And while they have not been on AEW television for some time, they're still in contact with the company and are available to wrestle if needed. There's no way they could sign with WWE right now or even have talks with WWE, as they are still locked down to AEW at this time. However, the expectation is once their deals were done, they will head to WWE. One source indicated to Fightful, though, that Rey Fenix is under a deal with AEW, and the team's transition to another company won't be as smooth as expected. Enta previously said that he and Phoenix were a package deal and that he wanted to go directly to the main roster if they go to WWE. And then the big shoe dropped yesterday as the Wrestling Observer newsletter confirmed that neither Penta El Zero Miedo or Rey Fenix have signed with WWE and are still under contract with AEW. It was noted that Penta is planning to leave AEW when his contract expires, which happens in the next 2 months. The newsletter reports that Penta has not yet officially started negotiating with WWE, but he plans on doing so once his AEW deal expires. That said, it's reported that WWE made a competitive offer, which influenced his decision to leave. As for why he's leaving AEW, he is said to be frustrated. This started when he was pulled from shows due to CMLL talent getting used, as he thought that it was disrespectful to someone who had been in AEW since the beginning. He also said to be unhappy in general with how he's been used as of late. Meanwhile, Rey Fenix will be around for another year in All Elite Wrestling. AEW is planning to add injury time to his contract after he missed some time due to various injuries over the last 2 years. It adds up to almost a year of additional time on his contract. Tony Khan reportedly made significant offers to the Lucha Bros, but neither have signed a new deal. Professor Kris, what do you think about Tony Khan adding injury time to Rey Fenix's deal, and that this all, like, especially with the Fightful report, Fightful also kind of put out their own report, I believe it was yesterday, where they clarified a couple of things with the various reports on the Lucha Bros. They said that that AEW had offered them an offer, and that, you know, the reports from Wrestling Observer newsletter were correct. As far as like Rey Fenix and his deal, they were told that the time was also added to Penta's deal, and they were told that that was around the time he publicly tweeted that his present was with AEW, and as he was hoping that the situation didn't result in Phoenix being held to injury time on his deal, as there's much more that can be added. Fightful had not yet heard if AEW plans on having them work in the future or if they'll be on ice, but it was confirmed to Fightful that if they're under contract, they're still being paid. They didn't get a straight answer as to what the motivation of extending the deals outside of AEW, wanted to get the contracted amount of time out of the duo that they were signed to per the terms of their contract, and expected by talent that they'll be asked to put talent over at the very least if they're planning on leaving. So, Professor Kris, what do you think about this whole situation? And we'll ask you the question that I put in the headline for this week. Should Tony Khan let them out of their deals early for them to go to WWE?
So you also mentioned something in the cold open. I think is it petty? Is it a business move? Should he? It's a little bit of everything. It is petty. It's because I don't think you're gonna get any value out of the Lucha Brothers and AEW that you've already gotten, especially if their heart isn't in it, man. If they don't want to be there, they're gonna. I don't think they'll phone in their matches or nothing, but I just don't think it's gonna be the magic that it used to be. But at the same time, if this was something he probably should have did with CM Punk, maybe hold him a little bit before he let him walk into WWE, and maybe he thinks he's learned a lesson from that. But as a wrestling fan, I did want to see what the WWE machine would do with them. I really did, because I think that those guys have a marketability that not too many. And I'm not one of those guys that always thinks like a AEW talent needs to go to WWE, because I think a lot of the time with these guys, they stay in the same position, just in another company. Like, how many times has Andrade fought Carmelo Hayes? Like 1 million. So I mean, it's not like you're gonna just shoot up the car. But I think with those two guys, something could have happened, and I hope they work it out soon. I don't know if the TKO is willing to buy out Phoenix's contract, because I think that's something that's a possibility, but usually those buyouts are a ton of money. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think that the best thing from this, like, if I'm looking at every angle of this from TK's perspective, I'd be thinking about, they don't want to be here. We've already done what we're going to do with them. I've got no immediate plans for them, so I just let them go, because if the only reason why I'm holding them is for the pettiness, but I definitely think they would probably be better off leaving at this point.
What do you think about this whole situation, Mark? And do you think it's a business move or a petty move by AEW?
It's a little bit of both. I think all those two and Conan should have kept their mouths shut.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Thank you.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, that's like we would not be in this situation if it wasn't for Conan, who is salty about AEW sending them not top talent. They only send you Kenny Omega and FTR AAA. So what are you even talking about? And then it was Penta for opening his mouth to different sources. I 100% agree.
Yeah, this should have been on their end kept completely quiet.
I agree.
Because when you start hearing, put yourself in Tony Khan's position for a second. You've got guys that are under contract, and all of a sudden you start hearing, oh, they're already ready to get signed by WWE, and Tony is really sensitive about people kind of hoarding in on what they've got. He doesn't like contract tampering.
Right. And
then you hear, oh, they're making a mask line for him already, and they're doing this and they're doing that. And Tony's got to be sitting there saying, pardon my French here, but what the fuck? Because that's what I'd be doing. I mean, like, what are you're under my roof right now. And, Rey Fenix, with the injury time, he took care of the guy. He took care of him and stuck with him and gave him a lot of opportunities. And to get repaid like that, man, I don't blame him for tacking it on. I don't at all. Now, what they do with him, I don't know. Maybe, you get some matches with hologram before you go out the door. But, Penta's only got a couple months left on his contract. What's he going to do? Because I don't know if WWE is going to bring him in without bringing Phoenix in. So, I mean, this they messed this situation up completely. But I think also Tony's sending a message. He is saying, look, we're not going to play this game anymore. If you're under contract with AEW, you're under contract with AEW. When if we renegotiate with you, great. But you're not going to play around with WWE while you're under contract with me. And this is a very big message, because this is the part where it's the business part. This is where it's the business, because he can't have this going on all the time. He can't. Now, do we know everybody's probably talking behind their backs no matter what? Sure. But to do it in such a public fashion, big mistake. And that's embarrassing to AEW. And so I don't blame Tony for sticking it to him a little bit.
Yeah, I honestly, I put more of the blame on this whole situation to Conan and Penta.
Yeah, me too.
Because I think that it's very lame. I think that is very petty move by AEW to extend anyone's contract. I said it with WWE when Vince used to do it, and don't just put it on Vince, ladies and gentlemen, because if you think that, now they have Triple H and Nick Khan and TKO, they don't do that anymore. They literally just added injury time to Drew McIntyre's deal before to give them more time to negotiate a new deal before he re-signed. They did that this year.
It happens all the time.
It happens all the time. WWE is still doing it. Just because they didn't do it with one or two people that you can think of off the top of their head doesn't mean they're not currently doing it. WWE does it, TNA does it, AEW does it. Every major wrestling company does this because it's in their contracted right to extend their time due to injury time. If you have time off, the injury time can be added on. It's been happening for years in WWE. So I understand the want and the need to be like, well, I hated it then, I'm going to hate it now. That's totally fine. But we also have to acknowledge if the talent did something wrong. And in this case, they did something wrong. Penta was very blatant and very, very kind of just out there in making it public that he was playing both AEW and WWE against each other to get a competitive offer. He got an offer from AEW to re-sign, and he took that number back to WWE, who basically matched that offer, and that's why he was making the choice to leave at the end of his contract. And he told people about it. That's the double down of it. It's one thing to do it. It's another thing to let people know about it, and he let the wrong person know about it by telling Conan, who's like their agent or manager at this point, who's the one basically in the middle, kind of pitting the numbers back, and he's upset at AEW, and he made it known. This is all on them more than it's even on Tony Khan. Tony Khan is a businessman. I've never considered Tony Khan, all these people that work with Tony and be like, oh, he's the nicest boss I ever had. That's all fine and dandy. He's still a businessman. He's still a billionaire. Exactly. I don't think he's a good person. He's a billionaire. He's a businessman. This is what business is about. You can't be the nice guy all the time. So I appreciate the fact that he's keeping this business-wise and saying, oh, you want to call my bluff? This is what it is. And that's why I put the tweet out there yesterday, and I will say it here. Penta fucked around, and he found out.
Yep, the big FAFO.
And then I completely forgot about the Conan aspect of it. I did hear it in passing, I just been so busy at work. But yeah, man, that Conan, that whole operation he's got going on with him and Disco always talking shit and stuff like that. I mean, that is not something that's doing these wrestlers a favor, It's one thing for Penta to get on a hot mic and start spewing his garbage, but like compound that with Conan talking his shit, is just as a boss, this is something that you got to consider. You know, you do have to kind of put your foot down on things like that, you know, and just be petty. Maybe not even use them and just have them sit out and not be hot and then go to WWE, you know?
Yeah. And now they've got decision making. It's the same thing with Miro. You know, what do you do with it?
Yeah, he's a dumbass.
Now, you know, so do you keep them around even though they're unhappy? And man, I mean, I coached for sport volleyball for 20 years. And sometimes just putting somebody at the end of the bench sends them the message and just leaving them there and ignoring them. And Tony may have to do that, but eventually there will be a conversation and, you know, maybe he'll change his mind a little bit. But for now, good move by Tony. Because he is a nice guy. And a lot of people said he's too nice. So send a message.
And the next move he needs to make is make these guys come back and make them put over some people that are going to be here. Make them put over Hologram, put them in there with Hologram and whatever tag team you want to put with him. They're starting Beast Mortals with LFI, have them lose to Roosh and Beast Mortals, have them lose to the Outrunners. I've said it last week. I think the Outrunners are the next AEW World Tag Team Champions. And that will piss a whole bunch of people off because I know some people don't like the Outrunners and what they do, but that's one of your most popular tag teams right now. And Lucha Bros is one of your greatest tag teams in company history. Have them come back, and put over some people. You wanted to use them for All In. Like the whole reason why Pac is 1/3 of the Trios champions is because it was supposed to be Death Triangle that won at All In. But you changed your mind once these reports came out. You need to kind of reverse course. And if you have people for however amount of time, especially people that can contribute to put people over that is going to be here long term, use them while you can. And if you got the Lucha Bros for a little bit more time, you need to make this a minor win for you by having them come back and put over some talent.
Yep.
Right. I agree.
Do what you got to do. So,
yes.
Whoopsie.
But I think I am in agreement with the other people in the chat. Yeah, it makes me question if he's going to give the grant Miro his release request. But Miro is not the type of person I would say, oh, have him come back and put over talent. No, just let him go. Just let him go.
I mean,
it's different. With Lucha Bros and Miro, I think it's two different situations.
He's gonna Miro will do it if you pay him extra money at this point. It's gonna be like a Jeff Jarrett situation.
Miro is one of those guys that I always complain about that are like in WWE or in AEW, and they think they're gonna go to WWE and just be main eventing and relevant. And I think if Miro goes to WWE, he's going to be in the exact same position he is in AEW. He's going to be just like Andrade. He'll be on TV. He'll get the TV time and stuff. But if his motivation is, I want to be mixing it up with the main guys, the minute he starts mixing it up with the Braun Breakers of the world, he's going to lose to him. So, I mean, I don't know, I don't know what the fuck he's thinking. I don't think he's going to get it much better in WWE than he's got it in AEW from a creative standpoint. Maybe the bag will be bigger and that's enough. But I mean, you are in your spot, my dude.
Yeah, would you pay $1 million a year for Miro right now? And would you do it? No. And I think that maybe he needs to take a step back and kind of figure this out. That if he would loosen up, he's in a good place. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's in a good place because if he goes like you said, if he goes back to WWE. Are we gonna? And I always like saying these things out loud. Can you see Roman Reigns against Miro? Can you see Cody Rhodes against Miro? Yeah. No, not without years of rebuilding him. So I mean, it's not happening. So
the only thing I see for him in WWE is fighting the lower tier guys, and maybe the bag will be bigger. He'll be his wife isn't there anymore, so he'll.
I don't think the bag's gonna be bigger. He's making
The wife
7
isn't there
figures in
either.
AEW. He's making
Well,
7
well,
figures.
right.
I don't
Well,
see WWE giving him 7 figures.
Well, I don't know how Triple H's mind works when it comes to that stuff. Maybe he'd be willing to match. I don't know. I don't see it like you, SP3, but I mean, I don't know how petty Triple H is. Miro is not a get this year. He's just not. Maybe he was a get a couple years ago, but right now he's just kind of spinning his wheels. And I mean, the stuff he was doing in WWE when Vince was there was lame enough. You know, the fact that he went to AEW in the first place should kind of signal something to the guy. I mean, in AEW, they let him be on East New York, that CBS show, for a little bit. They do let him do stuff outside of the company. So I don't know what the problem is, you know.
He don't like the creative. Yep. He's just not thinking about what he's making and what they can do for him. But I know, Mark, you got to run. You got stuff to do. So we want to give you the platform. Let everybody know where they can follow you on social media, good sir. And check out your show tomorrow, going live at 8 a.m. Pacific time. The floor is yours. Especially because you're going to be on at SP3. So, you know, that's kind of important too. But yeah, certainly we're on 101.5 FM KDAWN in Las Vegas. And you can check us out at markhokeshow.com. The show is also available on the Odyssey app. So if you haven't downloaded that app, it's a great app. Tons of terrific shows on there. And we're also live streaming on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube at The Mark Hoke Show, also the same as Facebook. And the X account is at Mark Hoke Show. And we would love to have you join our family, too. It's a great time. We do a terrific show. And tomorrow, SP3 is going to be on along with Phil Stamper from Wrestling Revolver. So it should be a fun one for us. And, and if I get back in time, SP3, I'll maybe pop in and see if I can join you towards the end of the show. Let me know, good sir. But we appreciate you joining us today, and I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. I will catch you again soon.
All right. Peace, yeah.
Peace, brother. We got a couple of comments here. We got a feature. We got Eddie James saying Triple H is very petty. I mean, I don't know if he's as petty as Tony Khan is showing himself to be, but he's definitely not as petty as Vince is, but I'll give him that. We got Senior Nerd who says the best spot for Miro right now is TNA. I mean, you see what's the world title main event will be at Bound for Glory, LOL. I mean, yeah, I think that if he wants a main event spot, yeah, TNA is probably the best spot for him.
Yeah, if that's all he wants, look, he wants the fucking bag, man. He's not going to TNA. He's not like one of those creatives. Like, there are certain actors that do like indie movies because it feeds their creative juices. Like, he's not Daniel Day-Lewis on these streets. He wants the bag, and that's what he cares about. He's not going to TNA. Unless he gets fired from AEW and he's got no other option.
I can also see that. We got also in the chat here, Power Driver Finisher talking about Miro saying, I feel his value has dropped. And right now his contract for WWE would possibly be more reliant on H having a need or a want for Miro. Yeah, I think the wrestlers are making more money than ever before. But when one of these guys, is leaving 7 figures, I don't think he's gonna go to WWE and automatically get 7 figures over there. Because WWE, I agree with you, Power Driver Finisher, that I don't see the need or the want for Miro in WWE.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they've got too many guys in WWE right now that fulfill Miro's role. They've got Braun Breaker, they've got Bronson. They've got all these like big powerhouse guys that I just don't see why you would bring Miro in unless Triple H has some really creative stuff cooking for him. But the last time a WWE saw this guy, audience saw that guy, he was cucking, you know. So I mean, you know, what are you gonna do with that? Please,
that's a great way to describe it. He was cucking.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I felt bad for him. I was wanting him to like leave, and he wouldn't re-sign his contract, and then they released him, and he went to AEW, and the stuff he was doing in AEW was good at the beginning. It's still right now, but I do think he's a guy that if Tony Khan wanted to, he can reheat him up, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't think in WWE I don't think that's the direction they would go with him, you know.
Agreed there for sure. We got also in the news from this week. Keep coming with those comments, send those super chat donations. We always appreciate the support. We got what happened after Grand Slam this week, as apparently we had a little meeting of some giants in the wrestling world, as AEW World Tag Team Champions and EVPs Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the Young Bucks, and Shane McMahon have officially met each other, as the Bucks posted a photo of the three together from an airport. The Bucks noted that they had an interesting flight today. This isn't Shane's first meeting, of course, with someone from AEW, as he met with Tony Khan back in July. It was Cultaholic that reported afterwards that this was a chance meeting between the two. They reportedly got on a flight from New York to Salt Lake City and sat basically one row apart from one another. The Bucks and Shane McMahon did not talk a lot on the flight, as the Bucks were asleep on the ride over to Salt Lake City, but they did stick behind to take this photo that is posted on social media. It was also noted that Shane McMahon said to someone that was on the plane that this was just a chance coincidence. So this next photo, this new photo here, we had Shane and Tony Khan earlier this past summer, with them having a meeting. Then we got him and the Bucks meeting up with each other. You had the whole report following Forbidden Door that he had the whole meeting in the airport with Mercedes Moné. Do you think that these are too many chance encounters, that it is like it's smoke where there is fire? And what would you put the percentage at, 0 to 100, of Shane McMahon making just an appearance in All Elite Wrestling?
I put it at 100%. I mean, I do love these Easter eggs, though. I think they're cool, and it gets the community buzzing. And this is what I like wrestling for, because someone like me who's busy like hell right at this moment, if I see this on Twitter, I am gonna go out of my way to try to figure out what's going on. So I don't think these are, I think these are purposely done. And they're going to be on the exact same commercial flight like that. I don't buy it, but, and then posing for pictures afterwards. It's cute and all that. But I definitely think, Shane in some capacity is AEW bound. I don't know if he's going to be doing press conferences with TK due to all that's going on with his father, but I definitely see something is mixing there.
Yeah, I think that there's too much smoke to not be a fire burning here.
Right.
So I would say I'm not as high as you. I would put it at 80. I'm 80% sure. I think after the whole Mercedes Moné, when the first kind of word started going around, when Conrad Thompson and JR were talking about it over on their podcast, I said I probably had it at like 30-35%. Then when Mercedes met up with him after Forbidden Door, I would put it at 50%. Then with Tony Khan having his meeting, I think it got up to like 65-70%. And now we're at like a good 80 to 85%. Sure, because this is like too many occurrences in a row. He's got to at least make an appearance. And I think that is just a mind-blowing, and it's the type of appearance or something that you can kind of build to or get buzz about and conversation about, that people that don't usually watch AEW will watch to see Shane McMahon on AEW television. It doesn't matter what he's doing. It's just the thought of a McMahon being back in professional wrestling, one, and two, being on the competition, the number 2 promotion behind WWE, that he is on that competitor brand of AEW. It is kind of like it's not like the whole Shane showing up at WCW, but it is kind of like, whoa, I never thought I would see this.
Yeah. And I'm a student of history. So I always look at history to see what's happened in the past and how history kind of rhymes, like when CM Punk was on his way out of AEW, and the minute I saw that Tony Khan released him for his contract, I was one of the few people who said he is 100% gonna be in WWE at the next Chicago pay-per-view, which was Survivor Series, right? So I look at this as kind of an extension of that. It's like, you don't do this kind of shit unless there's something germinating from a wrestling standpoint. Like, wrestling is like, if they see there's an opportunity to make money with somebody, to put them in something salient, to put them in something that's gonna get eyes to their product. If that Fox stuff is true, then yeah, Shane is gonna be, if let's throwing shit at the walls, if AEW is debuting anything on Fox in the near future, I'm on record on your show, SP3, saying Shane McMahon is going to be on that debut episode.
And that would get a bunch of eyes. And we're going to talk about the whole, their television deal, which still hasn't been announced. We're here on September 28th. It still hasn't been announced with Warner Brothers Discovery. But yeah, the Fox news is getting more and more kind of warmer and hotter. And now we have a talent who's saying that it's going to happen. But we got more news to discuss outside of that, as, like we said, MVP made his AEW debut at Grand Slam. Following his AEW debut at the show, Fightful Select confirmed that MVP had signed a deal with All Elite Wrestling. In a post on Instagram, MVP spoke about his arrival in AEW and hinted that his career could be winding down there. He says, "Cat's out of the bag. By now, I'm sure many of you know, and if you don't, you're about to find out that I've embarked on an exciting new chapter in my professional wrestling career. And I'm excited because this new chapter is quite possibly the final chapter. I've got some really cool things in store. So if you've been a fan of mine for this long, come hang out for just a little bit longer. Same MVP, just conducting business in a new location. MVP is AEW. See you next week." So my prediction is this is all leading to Wrestle Dream, where Swerve Strickland will probably make his return to AEW there. You can have the formal MVP and Prince Nana kind of fighting over or arguing their case to be Swerve's manager based on what he said about Swerve needing better management, or failure of a management has been his losses over the last 2 weeks or so. And then when Swerve chooses to stick with Prince Nana, you have Bobby Lashley debut immediately after that and take out Swerve, and it's Bobby Lashley and Swerve as his first program in AEW. But how do you see all of this kind of transpiring, and what do you envision of MVP and the Hurt Syndicate in AEW, and where can be their place in this company? Because that was kind of the big talk when they became free agents, is where do you put them in the AEW landscape? Where do you see these guys working?
What you just said, I see the exact same thing. I don't think TK is gonna sign a guy like Lashley and not put him in the world title situation. Maybe this is just me wishful thinking on my part, but I do think Lashley is gonna be the world champion in AEW when he debuts, and I think he's gonna be the monster destroying people until someone like a Swerve or Osprey or someone destroys him, because that's what you bring a guy like that in for, you know. And I do think it'll bring eyes to the product. I think this is a very, very good thing. I do hate how people are underselling Lashley. Even though time and time again, Lashley has proven his worth on every roster he has been on, man. And when you're not doing stupid shit with them, like putting him with his sisters in drag and crap like that, he is a valuable commodity. This program he had with Lesnar was, to me, it was a good program until they start messing it up. But Lashley is somebody that you don't bring in and just not do anything with, you know. He presents, even though he's an older guy, he presents like a younger guy. I don't think you're going to have to, and this isn't a knock on Edge, but I don't think Lashley is going to give you, Lashley's not trying to like be Superman and jump off ladders and land on his feet and shit like that, you know? So Lashley is a safe bet for AEW. You get him, you push him to the moon, you let one of your young guys dethrone him, and that's how you do with him. And he could be there. You could get a good 5 years out of Lashley. And MVP saying this is the last chapter. He'll get a Hall of Fame run, or you know, if he wants to. So I mean, he's doing the promoter thing, but I get it. But yeah, I'm very bullish on this.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Like I said before, I think that it's the key to all of this is going to be what young guy they put with them, because I know it was Dave Meltzer on Wrestling Observer was talking about how, you know, MVP's an older guy, Bobby Lashley's an older guy, Shelton Benjamin's an older guy. So it's not like the real trend. You should be kind of like pushing kind of your younger talent. It's about who AEW is going to pinpoint as the guy that's going to be helped by their star power by being aligned with them, whether that's a Powerhouse Hobbs, whether that's an EJ Nduka, whether that's a Lee Johnson. One of these guys you're going to have to help by aligning them with the Hurt Syndicate. And that's how that's going to, then that star is going to be how successful the Hurt Syndicate is going to be in AEW.
Right. And then I also say this too. Like if you put them as a 4 or 5 man faction, you put one or two young guys with them, they're going to get the rub just being in this vicinity of Lashley, MVP, and Shelton. On top of that, though, the people that they feud with, if the feud is done right, if they're young guys, and you know, let's say one of them pins Lashley in a not a fluke way, but a way that's not expected, you could push multiple guys with just the Hurt Syndicate being there. That is something that you could do. Hopefully Tony Khan does that, you know. I don't think Lashley's going to be one of those guys that's not willing to work with people. That's not my history. He like I said, I email him, I text him on Facebook, and when he's not busy, he texts back. So, you know, I'm nobody special, you know. So I think he'll be fine in AEW. And I think like you said, SP3, the key is the young guys you put in their vicinity.
Yeah, that's going to be how successful we look back on the move of bringing in the Hurt Business, aka the Hurt Syndicate, into All Elite Wrestling. But speaking of All Elite Wrestling and people coming in or possibly coming out, because Raj Giri this week reported that the AEW contract of Malachi Black is set to expire early next year in 2025. But AEW is working to re-sign him. The Wrestling Observer newsletter adds that AEW could add to his deal due to time missed because of injury, but it wouldn't be much longer. WWE is said to be interested in bringing Black back to the company, and he has added incentive in that his wife, Zelina Vega, currently works there. He previously tried to give AEW notice when Triple H gained more power in 2022 and tried to hire back people that Vince McMahon had fired. They also, at that time, contacted Miro as well as Swerve Strickland. Swerve was one of the first individuals who went back to Tony Khan and let them know of this contract tampering that was going on and that he wanted to stay with AEW. But very interesting, because I know back in 2022 when all that news came out, Tony Khan very much affirmed that Malachi Black had about 5 more years on his deal, which would at least put him into like 2026, 2027 territory and not, 2025. But it's interesting. It's just interesting here. What have you thought about Malachi Black's run in AEW, and what do you think should be the whole deal? Should he re-sign with AEW and see if he can get more exposure than he already has, or should he go back to WWE?
Yeah, so he's a guy like the rest of these guys. I think if WWE has a plan for him, he owes it to himself to at least listen to what they have to say. I think any free agent should do that. So I would say allow yourself to hit free agency, but don't expect to go to WWE and just be moved up the line, because that's just not what they're doing. Like, you have to be a certain kind of main eventer to be just pushed up the card that fast. I don't think that Aleister Black, Malachi Black, Tommy End is one of those people at the moment. Who knows what, if he, like, what could happen in the future, but right now that's just not where his career is at. So I'd hit free agency. I definitely do that. I'd listen to what they have to say, but this is something where it's I can't tell you what's right. You have to listen to your heart, my dude.
Yeah. I think that he is someone that, injuries has been a big factor in why he hasn't been used as much as a lot of people thought he should have been used in AEW. But it also comes down to like the booking. And, we've heard various reports about him not wanting to do jobs like that either.
Yeah,
so
heard that,
it's a lot of different kind of reports that make you kind of say like, yeah, maybe it is. He is one of those guys that when his deal is done, he should just go back to WWE and see what happens, see what he can do. And like I said before, he's got the added incentive of his wife being with WWE to kind of re-sign over there. We got Will Chisholm in the chat who says Malachi Black felt like his peak was the Cody program and Cody grandstand that moment. LOL. I mean, yeah, that was a big introduction for him, and then it kind of has just kind of fizzled or stayed at a certain place ever since then. Like, he's made the House of Black, which should have been, I agree with the other Daniel Garcia over here who says House of Black should have been much bigger. Yeah, but it also is like, does that act work in a place like AEW? You kind of,
right.
The spooky feel and stuff like that would work probably more in WWE than it does in AEW.
I would like to see some of the creative ideas that Aleister Black had for himself, because I'm with you. It's like the spooky stuff doesn't work that well, but like what ideas does he have for himself? Because I mean, like, I don't even see that shit working that much in WWE. So I mean, maybe it should have been bigger, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm not forgetting Buddy Matthews. I'm talking about Malachi Black here, brother. Buddy Matthews, he resigned.
Yeah, he's there, but Buddy Matthews ain't going nowhere.
Yeah, he's not going anywhere unless he's going to be the next one that axes for his release. And that's why Tony had to put his foot down with Lucha Bros and be like, hey,
Right,
y'all shouldn't be axing because I ain't going to give it to you.
right.
As previously reported, AEW and their media rights deal has been a topic of discussion on this show for the past couple of weeks because it's said to be almost done and could be announced as soon as next week, although I did say that last week. The deal is reportedly for 3 years with the option for a fourth, and the rumored $170 million number is said to be in the ballpark. According to Andrew Zarian of the McMahon podcast, the deal is done and only has a few things left to be finalized. The deal will include AEW and its pay-per-views on the Max streaming service, which is expected to begin in January. In addition to Max, there will still be accessible through other platforms. Zarian noted that he didn't hear personally about True TV as part of the package, something that was mentioned in the initial report from Puck News. He speculated that it could feature replays of Dynamite or Collision. Rampage is not believed to be airing on TBS or TNT, meaning that it could be discontinued or placed on True TV. As for AEW Shockwave on Fox, Zarian noted that the executives for Fox have noted likely could mean any Fox network, just as TBS, TNT, and True TV would all be Turner networks. Shockwave's format is unclear at the moment, except that it's a 1 hour weekly show. WWE sources don't expect Fox to use AEW as a replacement for SmackDown, although Fox's marketing people believe wrestling is something they can sell. He noted that he heard it would be announced next week, but heard the same thing for weeks now. And then, of course, like we noted earlier, Swerve Strickland made a lot of headlines this morning as it was revealed in a chat with Queens Flip on his YouTube channel that he told him that AEW may be replacing SmackDown on Fox. And he didn't even say maybe. He says, "Yo, we're replacing SmackDown on Fox." Yeah, it's real out here.
Yeah.
It's real out here in these streets. I was just like, "Wow, okay." All right. I mean, there's a lot to digest from there, but just talking about the WBD news of it all, the fact that, we talked about it last week when we heard the Puck News report, but AEW having a package where they're going to have pay-per-views on Max is going to do something similar to what it did for WWE's business of putting all their pay-per-views and content and library on Peacock. We can kind of say like a lot of the uptick in WWE's business started when they made the $1 billion deal to go to Peacock. And if AEW is doing a package with Turner that includes their TV for, say, the $170 million number that we've heard for just Dynamite and Collision on Turner, and then another probably like 30 to $50 million a year to put their pay-per-views on Max streaming service, AEW would hit that $1 billion mark that everybody was talking about when CM Punk said the 1 bill fill line at last year on Collision, and then they can make even more money with an additional package of bringing a Shockwave show over to Fox. So I'm very interested how this all is going to transpire. What do you think first about AEW potentially putting pay-per-views on Max?
I would love it because I don't like Bleacher Report. I know they've got other streaming services. Bleacher Report is the easiest one for me to buy, but those pay-per-views on that streaming service there's always an issue with them. Sometimes I get the Spanish feed by accident, and then I have to get them to give me the English feed. Sometimes it'll lag, sometimes it'll drag. The HBO, not HBO Max, just Max. I still don't understand why you get rid of the HBO branding, but
I don't know.
That's another conversation for another day. Max is a superb streaming service as far as streamers are concerned. I think the streaming model has kind of destroyed television in a lot of ways, but that's another conversation for another day. But I do think that the pay-per-views being on Max will make them easier to find, more accessible. better watching and viewing experience. If you're putting other content on Max, that's kind of like the best thing, especially since WWE has this Netflix still going on and they're on the Peacock also. So, I mean, I think it's great as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, and then what do you think about AEW potentially replacing SmackDown on Fox? Because when we first started hearing about the Shockwave show, a lot of us kind of already assumed that yes, it's a deal with Fox, but it would probably go to an FS1 since FS1 is kind of their sports place. But if it potentially is on like 8 o'clock or so against like a SmackDown, they having the same time slot as SmackDown did, or even on another night. I mean, that is going to be huge for AEW to be on broadcast television.
It's going to be big. Yeah, it's going to be big. And they're going to have to build their audience. You have to consider, what does Fox have on Friday nights right now, or like what is their programming like? And Fox doesn't really, they've got MLB, so that's big for them, but they don't really have like a hot show at the moment, I don't think. Let me know if I'm wrong, audience, but I think they could benefit from AEW. They're not going to have to pay them as much as they were paying WWE. And I do think the audience would build for it. I think Tony Khan is going to have to be creative. He's going to have to get some other creative heads working with them. But if they go to Friday nights on Fox, that will be huge. And I would believe that they would be successful.
Yeah, that's only going to help AEW as far as just its notoriety and its basically appeal to more of a mass audience if they're on network television. If it is to go to Fox, and we got people in the chat answering saying college football right now on Friday nights, and maybe it's something where they kind of are flexible on the day. It's like say that college football isn't in season or MLB isn't in season. And that's when they're on Friday nights. And then every other part of the year, they're on one of the other nights of the week. I don't know Fox's lineup. I only was watching Fox for SmackDown for the last couple of years, or football on Sunday. So it's definitely not going to be on a Sunday. But this is an interesting time, an interesting point for AEW. The fact that these talks and the news of them potentially working with Fox just keeps getting more and more stuff being said about it.
Yeah. And then on Fox, I'm trying to think, how do the ratings for Friday night college football do? I know Saturday night is a big night for football, for college football, but Friday nights, I don't know what the ratings are for it, so I can't speak to that, but I think AEW could be comparable, at least,
We shall see. We shall see. We got Safed who says, don't forget major events will cut the feed to the news on Fox. But they said that the Shockwave show is only 1 hour, so they don't even have to kind of worry about the news cutting in. Yes, major events, if something like happens, breaking news, will cut in. But SmackDown didn't have to deal with that. Didn't really have to deal with that other than probably like their first year on Fox. Did they have to deal with any like major events or major news interrupting their broadcast? It was never like that, never that significant or something that we don't forget. Like, no, it didn't happen that often, We got Bell who says, I'm not a fan of SmackDown right now. It's up and down, but I wouldn't put the Shockwave show head to head with SmackDown, honestly. This is the only, I'll be honest with you, Bell. This is the only case that I say, yes, you should go head to head with WWE because it's on broadcast television. Broadcast television always gets more ratings than a cable channel. And we've seen that over the last 2 weeks with SmackDown. SmackDown has gone down significantly, where last week's show did 1.3. A month ago, they were doing 2.3 on Fox. Like, they did 1.3 on USA. Yeah. Like, it may be as much as a million more viewers will watch broadcast television over cable television. This is the only instant that I would say AEW, yes, you probably should go head to head with a WWE show.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I don't know where that comes from. I think if you're on Fox and they're on USA, you do, unless you yourself don't believe in your product, you go head to head with WWE on Fridays.
Yeah, this is the only case that I would say that. Any other case, no, you probably shouldn't right now because WWE is hotter than it's ever been. But when you're on broadcast television and they're on cable television, yes, I say, yeah, that's the time that you pull the trigger and say, yeah, put Shockwave on, same time, 1 hour show against SmackDown. And it's not much for me as a wrestling fan to have 2 screens for an hour and then watch one show afterwards. I don't care about that. But that is much for the news, but of course we will have more to talk about when the AEW WB deal finally gets announced. And then it'll probably be a wait, maybe a couple of weeks or a month or so, or maybe more. We don't know because of how long this whole talk about the WB deal has gone until they announce AEW and whatever's going on with them and Fox as well. But moving on over to AEW Collision last Saturday and last night's Rampage. Collision last week did 347,000 viewers. The show featured Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes beating Undisputed Kingdom in a very good bunkhouse brawl matchup to retain the ROH World Tag Team Championships. Post-match, it was Sammy Guevara who challenged Kazuchika Okada to an AEW Continental title eliminator matchup on Collision Grand Slam tonight. Serena Deeb defeated Queen Aminata in a rock-solid bout. Really enjoyed that one. Post-match, it was Deeb who challenged the returning Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, for her return match in Pittsburgh this Wednesday on AEW Dynamite 5-year anniversary. Speaking of challenges, Jeff Jarrett challenged Hangman Adam Page to a lumberjack strap match at Collision Grand Slam. Hologram in the conglomeration beat Premier Athletes in a trios bout on the show. Meanwhile, the 10-man all-star tag was a pretty fun one as you had Roosh, Beast Mortos, Roderick Strong, and the Grizzled Young Veterans picking up the victory over Hook, FTR, and the Outrunners. And then finally, they closed the show with Nigel McGuinness cutting a damn good promo to hype up his Grand Slam matchup against Bryan Danielson. Then you had Rampage last night. The show featured Willow Nightingale beating Taya Valkyrie in a solid main event. House of Black picked up the victory over Leo Rush and Action Andretti in a decent tag team opener. Post-match, it was Andretti who threw a water bottle at Brody King, which sets up Andretti versus King on Collision Grand Slam. And finally, you had Konosuke Takeshita defeating Angelico in a good matchup on the show as Takeshita continues his momentum as he tries to go after the Continental Championship of Okada. And then in the news with AEW, it was, Daniel Garcia has been a topic of discussion on this show the last couple of weeks, Chris. And if you're wondering why Daniel Garcia hasn't appeared on AEW TV since All Out 2024 earlier this month, Dave Meltzer provided an update on Garcia during Tuesday's Wrestling Observer Radio. During the show, Meltzer said that Garcia hasn't appeared on AEW television since the pay-per-view because he has not yet re-signed with the company. Meltzer noted that Garcia still hadn't signed a new AEW contract, and it was less stronger that they felt that he would re-sign. That the basically the confidence that AEW previously had has gone down in the past month. As previously noted, Garcia's current AEW contract is expected to end in October, and he was reportedly in talks for a new one. There was also reportedly interest in Garcia from both AEW and WWE, and Daniel Garcia last wrestled at All Out 2024, losing to MJF at the event. We will ask you, Professor Kris, you haven't been on in the last couple of weeks, but what do you think? Do you think that Garcia should re-sign with AEW, or should he see if the grass is greener on the other side going to WWE?
I'm not sure. I see the pros and cons of both. I think that, again, free agency. I always think that's something that you should do if you're an athlete, so you can like legally talk to both sides. Becky Lynch hasn't left free agency, has she? So I mean, hit free agency and see what they gotta say. I don't think Daniel Garcia is gonna be a main eventer anywhere anytime soon. So I mean, WWE might have something creative for him to do. I think he could benefit from an NXT run, and then eventually get to the main roster. He's young, so he's got options. So I mean, is it like it's really a lot of this is going to depend on one, the belief that he has in himself, and two, what the both companies sell to him, and he's going to have to think about it long and hard.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Bell says Daniel Garcia is going to get to negotiations as he should, but I'm 65% sure he is resigning. I think that the best thing, in my opinion, for his career is getting a big money deal from Tony Khan and sticking with AEW, because it feels like right now his stock is going up on AEW.
Yeah.
And he will get an initial good push on NXT for WWE, but I don't see the long-term prospects of him potentially going to the main roster and becoming a top star. Whereas with AEW, I think there is a chance he can become a top star.
Right. He is on an upward trajectory in AEW, and you can't say that about a lot of guys in AEW. So that's just another thing he's got to consider.
Yeah. He has to consider all these options, but I do agree with you as well that going into free agency, especially with his contract about to expire in October, I think it's the best thing for his career and best thing for anybody's career is to hear from both sides and play both sides against each other.
Yeah, I agree.
But speaking of his opponent from All Out, MJF, Deadline had a report on him that the former AEW World Champion is set for a role in the upcoming sequel to Happy Gilmore 2, starring Adam Sandler. According to PW Insider, reports that MJF will play Gordy in the movie, one of Happy Gilmore's sons. Happy's sons are described as tough, crazy bastards with New England accents who have inherited their father's love of hockey. They all live out on their own and work blue-collar jobs. The sons will be portrayed at various ages in the film. Production is happening in New Jersey and lasts through the end of November. It's unknown how long MJF will take part, but that is the reason why he needed time off from AEW, as we previously talked about, that he took time off because he was filming a movie, and this is the movie, and it's a pretty big one, a classic 90s comedy, in my opinion. The film, which will be streamed on Netflix, also stars Julie Bowen, Christopher McDonald, Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs, and WWE superstar, as well as musical artist, Grammy Award winner, Bad Bunny. It is being directed by Kyle Newacek and from a script by Adam Sandler himself and Tim Herthy. What do you think about MJF landing a big role in a 90s classic comedy sequel?
Yeah, I think this is good for him. It's straight to Netflix, which is fine. I mean, that's the new model right now for a lot of movies is go straight to the streamer. But yeah, I think he'll be I don't know if this is gonna like turn him into like a mainstream star. I don't know if this is gonna do like what Rocky 3 did for Hulk Hogan, but I mean it's something, and it's always good to see wrestlers delve into acting, because you do have to think about your career after wrestling. And if, like, say Maxwell Jacob Friedman turns into a John Cena, Batista, Rock type, I always think it's good for wrestlers to have an out clause and be able to like not need wrestling, because you see what happens to wrestlers when they need it. So I think if he can get himself to a position where he's a big enough actor, maybe a John Cena level or Batista level actor, he'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that this is great for like the future of his career post professional wrestling, that he's already got his foot in the door as far as doing a movie with one of the biggest names in Hollywood when it comes to like comedy films in Adam Sandler. That's definitely a good thing for him. I'm willing to see, even though I feel his better role would have been as Shooter McGavin's son. I think MJF would have played that much better than Happy Gilmore's son.
Right, yeah. And what quick thing. In Netflix, they might do a series with if his character is good enough, they might do a television show starring like Sandler's son in the movie. So who knows?
Or yeah, they can. Yeah, Netflix is always known for just playing off any successful movie they have. They'll either do another one or they'll do like something that's like a spin-off from it, for sure. Mm-hmm. But speaking of people who have been stars in movies or been the subject of a movie, Saraya will be in AEW for a little while longer, reportedly signing a new deal with the company. Fightful Select reports that the former AEW Women's World Champion signed a new one-year deal with All Elite Wrestling. The report, AEW had an option year on Saraya, but it was implied that it could have been a different agreement than the one she was originally on. Her new contract runs until September of 2025. And finally, the report says that there are a lot of positive reaction backstage to Saraya's matchup with Jamie Hayter that will air on this week's AEW Collision. So Saraya is going to be here for a little while longer. And I know that some people are not happy about that because she is engaged to someone who isn't politically correct. So more than that. But what have you thought about Saraya's run in AEW? And are you happy or not pleased or in the middle on her resign?
So I just got this news. Stephanie Chase told me about this stuff like a couple weeks ago about her and her husband or boyfriend or whatever and all the crap he does. And she also told me about Saraya kind of dropping clues to like that, like making fun of like certain communities and all that. But if I didn't know all of that stuff, I'd be happy with it. I think that she's AEW likes her. I think the talent like her. The talent that I've talked to, they've seemed to get along with her. This was a year ago. This is not, so I don't know about like the boyfriend stuff, how she gets along with them, gets along with talent now. But yeah, we'll see. I don't hate it. I think it's fine, unless Stephanie Chase tells me more shit that like makes me hate it. But for what I mean, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of like indifferent about it. She can add something, but we'll see what it is. And I try to stay out of what their significant others do and just try to judge them on what they give to the on-screen.
But that's hard to do, though. But that
it is hard. It is very hard to do. And no, she's not with Alberto El Patron anymore. Power driver finisher. And Will Chisholm says so. It makes sense why she said what she said at the All Out media scrum that made people mad. Yes, Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what Stephanie was telling me about too. She said she mentioned it on the show. I had no fucking clue about any of this stuff. So I'm still, and I haven't talked about it until I'm talking with you about it, Sid. So I got no clue, man. I like having like more information before I like give a full-fledged, throated opinion on these kind of things. So I'm it's not like I'm not dodging anything. This is new to me.
Yeah, same. But speaking of the women's division, Thunder Rosa has denied a report that she is cleared to return to AEW. Rosa posted to deny a report by the Wrestling Observer newsletter that says she was cleared from her concussion, writing, "Stop lying about my health. I'm not cleared, and when I am, I will announce it. I reserve the right to divulge my medical status. If you need information, ask me directly or my team." Rosa revealed that she had a concussion a couple of weeks ago following her four-way match against Hikaru Shida, Queen Aminata, and Serena Deeb on the August 31st edition of AEW Collision. And then finally from AEW, Fightful Select reports that AEW tag team The Outrunners, Truth Magnum and Turbo Floyd, have signed a contract with All Elite Wrestling. The report notes that while the Outrunners have not yet received an hashtag All Elite graphic, they are said to be under an AEW contract. However, the specifics of that contract are currently unknown, along with when the contract was signed. The tag team made their AEW debut on AEW Dark Elevation in September of 2021 against the Butcher and the Blade. In recent months, they've become regulars on AEW and ROH TV, and they've increased in popularity between their recent vignettes and live show reactions. AEW has reportedly been very happy with the team's live reactions and recent reception, and their push is expected to continue. When reached for comment by Fightful Select regarding their AEW contract status, they reportedly stated, and I quote, "I can neither confirm nor deny that we are old enough or too young to sign or not sign." The former OVW tag team champions have also regularly appeared on OVW and N.W.A. before their recent runs in AEW and ROH, but hey, I'm all for the Outrunners. They're merch movers. They're getting bigger and bigger live reactions every single week. I said it once. I will say it again. That is the type of team. You strike while the iron is hot. If a team gets popular and you weren't expected, ride that wave. And I think AEW should by putting them into the title scene. And I think their characters would work well against a team like the Young Bucks for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. What have you thought about the Outrunners becoming a popular act on AEW TV?
Yeah, so I haven't seen much from them, but yeah, I'm with you. I think anytime a team becomes like what's it called? I'm trying to think of it, but when a team becomes hot, you kind of have to go with that. And I think that just go with it and see what happens is my opinion.
Yeah, I feel you on that for sure. Like I said, I think the world of the Outrunners, they started off on ROH TV when I was one of 5 people still watching it. Now we're up to 6. Good thing ROH. But speaking of ROH, the show featured Lee Moriarty defeating Preston Vance to retain the Ring of Honor Pure Championship this week in the main event. You also had Commander beat Johnny TV in a singles bout, while the ROH Women's World Champion Athena and Billy Starks defeated LMK and Christina Marie. Post-match, it was Abaddon who came out and confronted the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion, but got a taste of Billy Starks and got the better of her before Athena and Billy ran off. And then finally, you had Action Andretti beat Tony Deppen in a pretty decent opener, while Brian Cage defeated Alec Price in a very fun squash match. Shout out to Alec Price, who's one of my favorites on the independent scene and had a really good showing on ROH TV this week. So some good stuff over there. But that is all from the converse for us this week with AEW and Ring of Honor. So we have to move on over to WWE, and we're starting off with WWE SmackDown last night on USA. The show featured Randy Orton kicking off the show to call out Cody Rhodes to ask why he's teaming with Roman Reigns at Bad Blood. Cody explained that it's a necessary evil to face the bloodline, and Reigns gave him his word that to have his back. This brought out Kevin Owens, who was interrupted by the bloodline, with Solo Sikoa pointing out that Cody never won with Orton and KO by his side, so he needs Roman. This led to KO challenging Solo and Jacob Fatu to the main event against him and Orton, throwing some shade at Cody to wait for his Bad Blood matchup. And of course, in the main event, you had the Bloodline picking up another victory with Solo and Jacob Fatu defeating Owens and Orton, thanks in part to Fatu throwing Cody into the referee to distract before hitting 2 super kicks to help Solo get the pin. Cody and KO got into a shoving match afterwards before hugging to close the show after Orton brought them back together. Bayley defeated Naomi to advance to face Nia Jax for the WWE Women's Championship at Bad Blood. Michin picked up a victory over Piper Niven ahead of her dumpster match against Chelsea Green next Friday. Carmelo Hayes defeated Andrade in an excellent bout.
Awesome match,
to an inadvertent assist from LA Knight after Mello attacked him backstage, and Knight got involved to cause a distraction for Andrade in the matchup. He wanted to shake hands with Andrade after Andrade said he lost respect after they didn't shake hands the week prior, but Andrade walked off on him. Man, I've been loving Andrade and Carmelo since this whole series of matches started, but that might have been their best match. Like, they were cooking last night. That was like, that stood out to me. And I like the character work of Kevin Owens, where Kevin Owens is trying to hide his emotions about Cody teaming with Roman, but he is so in his feelings. He is so salty about that. It's just too funny. What do you think about the whole dynamic of Cody teaming up with his former arch rival Roman Reigns to burst the bloodline, and both Orton and KO's reaction to that?
Yeah, I think Kevin Owens needs, like, from a logic standpoint, from a storyline standpoint, it's kind of silly too, because I mean, this is wrestling, so you always team up with your enemies. You know, you that's just how it goes. You know, once you all of y'all are getting your asses kicked by the Goon Squad but bloodline. So I mean, it makes sense that to team with Roman Reigns. So I don't understand why they're so fucking mad at him, why Owens is that mad. So I guess a heel turn is coming from him and probably Orton too. Those are good guys for Cody to feud with.
I think it's a red herring of why, like, KO is so over the top against this, that I think it's a red herring that they're going to make us think that KO is going to turn, but it's going to be Orton instead.
Right, yeah, I can see that too. I wouldn't be surprised at Orton turning, because Orton is being kind of too nice. Orton is like, God, what? I'm not gonna say what I want to say, but what is he on, man? I've never seen him this like buff. I thought that was the like, from a distance, I thought he was The Rock for a second, man. He's like fucking huge. I think Owens and Orton are gonna turn. Owens by himself is gonna turn, or Orton is by himself is gonna turn, but someone's turning in that scenario.
100% agree with you there. I just think that KO can be babyface a little longer because he's just so honest. He's too honest to not be a lovable babyface to be. Whereas Orton, I think, is just hiding back and waiting for the right time for the shoe to drop and him turning on Cody. I think he's just biding his time at this point right now. But we shall see how that all transpires. But like I said, go out of your way to watch Mello and Andrade. These two guys, like, I can't believe that they faced 6 times, and I still want to see more from them. When WWE has two people face this many times, after like the third matchup, I'm like, okay, y'all guys can move on. But with these two, they just have a different chemistry to them.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's just like a WWE thing, right? When like Kofi Kingston and Dolph Ziggler, like when they used to have that revolving mid card with Kofi Kingston, Ziggler, Ted DiBiase Jr., Cody Rhodes, that's something they do. But in this situation, I think the matches have been good. I do think Andrade has no reason to be dropping like complaints on Twitter anymore, because I think he's in a prime position. And yeah, I think that him and Melo, their chemistry is enough to, because you're right, like after about like the 700th time they wrestled each other, it is something that is easy to get tired of, but they do work well together. I will say that.
Yeah. But that is not the most WWE based thing that was talked about this week. Neither was Raw, neither was NXT. The most talked about WWE thing this week was the Vince McMahon, Mr. McMahon Netflix docuseries. On Monday, Mr. McMahon gave the docuseries a whole bunch of publicity inadvertently, as he issued a statement on the Netflix docuseries before its release on Wednesday, saying that it is misleading based on an early cut. The docuseries Mr. McMahon arrived on Wednesday, and McMahon posted a statement to his Twitter account on Monday to address the show. McMahon said that he didn't regret participating in the show, but claimed that based on an early partial cut he's seen, it is misleading and convolutes his on-screen character with himself. He said, and I quote, "I don't regret participating in this Netflix documentary. The producers had an opportunity to tell an objective story about my life and the incredible business I built, which were equally filled with excitement, drama, fun, and a fair amount of controversy and life lessons. Unfortunately, based on an early partial cut I've seen, this doc falls short and takes the predictable path of convoluting the Mr. McMahon on-screen character with my true self, Vince. The title and promos alone make that evident. A lot has been misrepresented or left out entirely in an effort to leave viewers intentionally confused. The producers use typical editing tricks with out-of-context footage and dated sound bites, etc., to distort the viewer's perception and support a deceptive narrative in an attempt to further their misleading account. The producers use a lawsuit based on an affair I ended as evidence that I am, in fact, Mr. McMahon. I hope the viewer will keep an open mind and remember that there are two sides to every story." Janelle Grant's attorney has issued a response to Vince McMahon's comment on the upcoming Mr. McMahon docuseries, and Ann Callis is her name, and she said, and I quote, "Vince McMahon physically and emotionally abused and sexually assaulted and human trafficked Janelle Grant for more than 2 years. Calling his horrific and criminal behavior an affair is delusional and nothing more than a sad attempt to save his shredded reputation. Although Miss Grant has not seen the Mr. McMahon docuseries, we hope it shines a bright light on his apparent and criminal actions by accurately portraying the realities of his abusive and exploitative behavior. Miss Grant will no longer be silenced by McMahon. Her story, though deeply troubling and exceptionally painful, is one that can help other abuse survivors find their voices. We seek to hold McMahon, John Laurinaitis, and WWE accountable and to give Miss Grant her day in court."
Wow.
A lot to digest there before we even get into the series, which we will with the next news note here, as there was more fallout even before the series aired on Netflix. But we can talk a little bit about episode 6 of the series, which kind of falls in line, the finish, as it was titled, with this news here. Do you think that the Netflix docuseries in that episode 6 did a good job of kind of outlining everything? Because I think that the main thing that I got, because like I said at the top of the show, I just watched it before we went live here. And I think that one of the main things that I took out of that last episode is they did confirm that Janelle Grant was the original Wall Street Journal story that broke in 2022. A lot of people kind of assumed that, but it was confirmed by the Wall Street Journal journalist that wrote that first story that Janelle Grant was the person that wasn't referenced by name during that story that first broke, that really started this domino effect for Mr. McMahon. So do you think that it represented, all the horrible things that Mr. McMahon did in what's gone on in the last 2 years? And what do you think about McMahon's kind of statement before the release of the show?
Yeah, so I've only seen clips that people have posted on Twitter. I will say that what McMahon, that post is what they call the Streisand effect, where like if you just kind of shut up about it, no, you're actually drawing people to the problem, to what you're talking about, instead of kind of like leaving it alone. But this kind of deflection and stuff, and I work in a setting at the moment because I actually crisis management is something that I sometimes do. Haven't done it in a couple years, but that is one of my areas of expertise. And with Vince McMahon, the problem that he has that a lot of people don't seem to get is, and this happens in a college setting a lot also, because you sometimes get professors that mess around with students and then it causes a whole power dynamic thing. When you are somebody's employer and you have any kind of sexual relationship with them, it's already a conflict of interest. And then the lines of consent just automatically get blurred, so you can't really talk about this as a consensual thing, because I don't know what like McMahon threatened this woman with. If I'm to believe Miss Grant's lawyers, he threatened her with a lot of like promised her money and shit like that, and using tools of power like that to kind of get what you want. It doesn't make it as consensual as you think it is.
Yeah, it's very disgusting, and it's not right. And yeah, the power dynamic is like the main thing that I think that not a lot of people are kind of putting into account, that he is using his position to coerce these things that people would not regularly want to do with him, let alone in a job like atmosphere that they're doing it in. Like, it's so much to kind of like take out of that. And I think that people try to downplay that with the whole like, oh no, they accepted the money and they weren't complaining when the money rolled in. Well, they want to put that behind them. It's not necessarily they're only not saying something because the money is being brought to them. They don't want to say anything because they don't want to have to relive that as well.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that you don't put into account when you say stuff like that. Like, I think that has to be said and has to be known that these people don't want to have to kind of tell people about this or open their mouth and say this type of stuff. So the money helps them in making that decision, but it's not something like, oh, they're in the wrong because they accepted the money. No, it is all about the power dynamic, and you don't know what it took for them to sign an NDA and what type of pressure that they got in doing that as well.
Yeah, and the wrestling business kind of always has been about the money. It's always been about how much money can you make doing this, how much money can I make doing that. That's just how wrestlers talk about stuff. Oh, he was a big draw. Everything there is about money. So that's the only language some of these motherfuckers understand. Like when Mark Henry released that statement, she wasn't complaining about the money. Like Mark Henry did a lot of embarrassing things in WWE for money, you know?
Yes.
So he's like, hey, as long as you're paying me, I will do what you ask him to do. But the thing is like, that's not everybody's attitude. And some people, they have that attitude. If someone needs money, they're gonna be susceptible to do things they normally would not do, because money it's not the answer to everything, but money makes it so you don't have to think about a lot of things that you normally would have to think about. You don't have to think about where your next meal is coming from. You don't have to think about, if you got sick parents, you could take care of them easily. If you got doctor bills, all that stuff, like money does help you live life a lot more comfortably, because it's something, it's a thing you don't have to think about. And for Vince McMahon to kind of use his money, lord it over this woman, you gave her a 100% raise. That was the first, thing right there. You gave her a 100% raise. You promised her this money, and Vince McMahon isn't even like, he's so unethical and dirty and sick and twisted that he wouldn't even give her the money that he said he was going to give her, So he left this woman with very little recourse. So, fuck the wrestling business, period. How they kind of operate in this sense, it really does disgust me. It's like, all these people, not in the clips I saw of the people defending Vince McMahon, they weren't even defenses of Vince McMahon. They were just kind of like, oh, Vince McMahon did this for me or did that for me. Everything Vince McMahon did for you fuckers is all around the money he gave you. He did nothing for you.
And the people that defend Vince, like, just because he's nice to you does not make him a good person. Does not make him a good person.
Right. Yeah. Like even in the Bill Cosby situation, there were plenty of women that he worked with that he wasn't given the pass out drugs to, like he wasn't doing that shit to Felicia Rashad, because Felicia Rashad is a powerful woman. He wasn't doing that to his direct co-stars on the Cosby Show, but he found women to do that to, he, just because someone is nice to you doesn't mean they are nice to, they treat everybody like that. And the people that Vince McMahon was nice to are people that made him money, I mean, simple as that.
And watching that 6th episode, man, Bruce Pritchard sounded like a complete and utter dumbass. Like, he was basically saying the same thing that Vince said in his statement, which I agree with what you said, that the statement did more to promote the Netflix docuseries than what WWE has not even mentioned. WWE don't want people to watch that because they are about to go to Netflix, and Netflix has an indictment on the entire company and how it was built based on the person who helped build it in Vince McMahon with this docuseries. So they have not even mentioned it, even though the first time that we heard about this Netflix docuseries was on a WWE conference call to stockholders. That was the first time, because Vince willingly did these interviews and then canceled all the final interviews, like it was noted in the docuseries, when all this, allegations came out. So man, it's a lot to unwrap, a lot to devolve. We're not going to be able to get into everything because of, like I said, we're going to do a full review where we'll be getting into everything said by the different people as far as the allegations, as far as Vince and the different stories throughout the history of WWE. And I do agree with a lot of you who are saying like the documentary wasn't a lot of things that you hadn't heard before. I would say like 50%, like the first 3 episodes, it was nothing new that you hadn't seen in a documentary on like WWE Network than you would have seen here. Like you've seen everything. If you watch Dark Side of the Ring, if you watch a majority of the WWE documentaries that they did on WWE Network when they were doing them, you had seen like 50% of the show. It was really kind of like the back end of the show. I would say everything from episode 4 on, hearing Vince's different perspective of things, like him saying the quote of, responding to Bret Hart when Bret Hart in 1999 said that if that was Shane McMahon in the ring that had their brains splattered like Owen Hart did at Over the Edge 1999, do you think that Vince would have continued on the show? And then Vince's response to that was, I don't care if it was me with my brain splattered on the mat, I would have continued the show. Like Vince said a bunch of things in this doc. Like I said at the top of the show, Vince said a lot of things in this docuseries that made me be like, his lawyer needs a raise. Like when he talked about Rita Chatterton and he was like, yeah, I remember those allegations. He was like, no, this was a consensual relationship. And even if it wasn't a consensual relationship, she's out of the statute of limitations. Dude, don't say that.
Yeah.
That's your lawyer. I'm like, dude, don't even say that.
It was so fucking stupid. And I'm looking at Netflix right now. That's why I bought my tablet out. Here's the thing. We know all this stuff. All of us who watch wrestling knew this stuff about Vince McMahon. This shit is number 4 on Netflix right now. That means people who had no clue what was going on now know about this, So it's not as simple as, oh, this is stuff we've already know. This shit is number 4 at the fucking moment.
Yeah,
so
we have to realize that we're not the target audience for this docuseries. Yeah. The wrestling fan is not the target audience. It's the people that aren't into wrestling, and that's why it's number 4. It's number 4 because, wrestling fans probably went out their way to watch it, but it's also top 10 on Netflix because people outside of our wrestling bubble is watching it. And they are getting exposed to who Vince McMahon is from start to what has happened with his resignation from WWE.
Right, and I can promise you this. I'm sure that Netflix wanted this to be a fun, quirky documentary on Vince McMahon, but the minute all this stuff dropped, to maintain your journalistic integrity and to maintain your credibility as documentarians, this stuff had to be added. You can't just leave it out because it's dropping in real time. So I don't know what people want from this. I don't even know what Vince McMahon wants. It's like, the minute this stuff dropped, it was no longer going to be a fluff piece once this shit dropped. It just wasn't.
And that's why we're going to talk about he tried to get this shit pulled. He tried to buy it out. He tried to buy it back. Yeah. He tried to get Ari Emanuel to buy the Netflix docuseries because he knew what was going to happen after these allegations came out. We do have a super chat donation here. Thank you so much, Dion Jenkins. Appreciate the support and the love. That's the best way you can show your support to what we do here on the Flagship Podcast. Thank you, Dion. He says, can't wait until you guys get to the Shane and Vince knife story. Vince is insane. And yes, that story was told by Paul Heyman, I believe, in the second to last episode, Family Business, where he talked about Shane and Vince had a disagreement, and basically Vince was eating something, and he told Shane, he was like, do it. He gave him the knife, and he was like, do it. Stab me in the heart. He was like, if you want to do this, if you want to make this decision, you're gonna have to put the dagger in my heart, because if you don't, I will stop at nothing to stop you from doing what you're about to do, and you're gonna have to take me out in the same way that I would have took my father out if he didn't let me buy the business from him. That's the type of man we're talking about. Like my missus that worked under Vince McMahon in this company was like watching this, and she was like she watched like the first 2 episodes and was just like, yeah, that's enough for me. He was like, that's enough for me. He was like, he's too evil. He is the devil. He is the devil reincarnated. That's what Vince McMahon is.
Yeah. He is an absolute nut. And he's cultivated a culture in WWE where he's got way too many people kissing his ass. He lorded over the industry for so long that people are like afraid to stand up to him because they're afraid of being ostracized from the business or whatever. So it's always refreshing when you see someone like a Bret Hart that's like, hey, the guy never cared about me, so fuck him. It's really weird. Bruce Pritchard was not an employee of WWE for a long time, but he could never shake the stranglehold that Vince McMahon has over him, where every time he does his show with Conrad or any kind of shoot interview setting, he's always got to kiss his ass, man, because that's just what he does. He was complaining about the documentary as they were filming. I did see those
on the documentary.
Yeah,
oh my god! I was like, this dude is.
I'm glad they left. Yeah, I'm glad they left that shit in there because it shows you how much of a sycophant that Bruce Pritchard is. He is. I mean, I guess if you're a corporate billionaire and a CEO and you want a bunch of yes men and ass kissers working for you, Bruce Pritchard is a good person to have your back. But man, he is such a pathetic human being.
Yeah, and that's the main reason why. Like I loved WrestleMania 40 night 2. I thought that Cody winning was great, a great end to the show, and it was appropriate for him to bring out Triple H. But I feel like he took a point off of that perfect ending by also bringing out Bruce Pritchard, because Bruce Pritchard is so connected to Mr. McMahon. No matter how much, Triple H, and WWE have done their best to separate themselves from Vince McMahon, having Bruce Pritchard still a part of the company, you have the number one Vince McMahon yes man that we have ever seen in the world, honestly.
Right, yeah. Like him and Doc Hendricks, to me, were always kind of the worst about kissing Vince McMahon's ass. Bruce Pritchard definitely more so because he's been doing it for so long. He's never left that company. Like even when he left that company, he still didn't leave that company. He's like someone like, I don't know if you ever met a person that used to be in jail, and then when they get out of jail, they're still making prison spreads and noodles and shit, doing that stuff. That's what Bruce Pritchard is. They
making knives out of their toothbrushes, and they at home.
Yeah, and it's we do have actual knives that you can use, and that's kind of where Bruce Pritchard is with this shit. He is always going to be a prisoner to WWE and their bullshit. And he's not the only one in his defense. There's so many wrestlers who are just that transactional. They look at the world from a standpoint of how much money did I make doing stuff for you. For some of these people, it might have been easy to do. It's easy money. For Mark Henry, it was probably easy for him to say, hey, I'm going to give you $1 million. So, make out with I'm going to have a trans person play a trick on you, or I'm going to have you sleep with a 90-year-old white woman, or all that kind of stuff. It's like, that's kind of like how the lens they look at it. Look, the wrestlers often say, look at what I had to do, or look at what I did. Like I remember Brodus Clay telling his story about how he didn't want to do the shucking and jiving character. And then he says, Dusty Rhodes has said to me, the reason why I changed my mind is Dusty Rhodes said to me, do you think you're better than me? And I'm like, okay, motherfucker, you are a black man being asked to shuck and jive. You tell Dusty Rhodes, no, I don't think I'm better than you, but this is not a good reflection on me or my people, so I don't want to fucking do this shit. But you don't know how to do that because you understand the world through how much money can I get for doing it.
Pretty much. But continuing on from the Mr. McMahon on Netflix stories, according to a report by Puck's Matt Belloni, former WWE chairman Vince McMahon attempted to purchase the rights to the upcoming Mr. McMahon docuseries, which debuted this week. Belloni wrote that McMahon attempted to buy the project from Netflix after seeing early footage. However, Netflix apparently balked at the offer. The streamer reportedly declined to comment on the rumor. Additionally, Puck's report notes that McMahon also attempted to have Endeavor's CEO Hari Emanuel, his previous corporate partner of WWE's parent company TKO Group Holding, intervene on his behalf and voice concerns about how the documentary treats McMahon and his Mr. McMahon alter ego, which ultimately became the title of the docuseries. Netflix reportedly refused to let go of the project. Later in January 2024, Janelle Grant filed her lawsuit against McMahon, WWE, and former executive John Laurinaitis, alleging sexual misconduct. Vince McMahon is no longer working with his PR firm, also coming out of all of this, that was representing him, according to a new report. Post Wrestling's Brandon Thurston reports that McMahon is no longer being represented by Sturrick and Company, a PR firm that he began working with in April. Sturrick and Company has represented such clients as Roy Disney, Kobe Bryant, Pepsi, and more. When asked R. Kelly, yes. When the relationship between McMahon and the firm ended and who decided to do so, Michael Sturrick told the outlet, with respect to the client, we don't comment beyond we are no longer working together. According to the report by F4WOnline.com, McMahon started working with a new PR firm, Indale Strategies, before the launch of the docuseries this week. Vince McMahon had previously hired Sturrick and Company about 5 months ago to help with his image in the wake of the recent lawsuit. Indale Strategies was founded by Tony Feinberg in 2018, and the company will now represent McMahon for public relations and media strategies moving forward. McMahon reportedly made the switch due to his belief that Edendale was more up to date with the modern media landscape and has a better understanding of the digital and online media spaces. Feinberg previously worked as an associate producer at NBC and also worked as an agent of William Morris Agency, which later merged with Endeavor, becoming WME. WME now holds a majority ownership of both UFC and WWE. Edendale Strategies website claims that the company helps its clients hone and confide their message effectively, especially in high-stakes situations where there is little to no margin for error. The company claims to represent Fortune 100 companies, major civic institutions, prominent charities, sports franchises, and high net worth individuals, including world famous actors, directors, writers, and musicians. Janelle Grant's lawyers issued a statement following the release of the Netflix of the Netflix Mr. McMahon docuseries. The series released on Wednesday, and that they said that the lawsuit led to, of course, Mr. McMahon's exit from WWE and TKO Group Holdings. Grant's lawyer issued a statement on the series to Brandon Thurston saying the Mr. McMahon docuseries makes it clear there is no difference between Vince McMahon's on-screen persona and his true self. They are one and the same. His character, known for violent outbursts, sexual deviancy, and manipulation, is the real Vince McMahon, and exactly what Janelle Grant experienced behind closed doors at WWE for years. While the docuseries puts McMahon's obsession with power and control on full display, it also scratches the surface of his criminal behavior. It fails to tell the full story of his abuse, sexual assault, and human trafficking of Miss Grant. She deserves the opportunity to tell her own story and on her own time in her own way. We look forward to her day in court and to seeing McMahon at last held accountable for his actions.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe he tried to buy it. He tried to buy it and killed the project. He knew what was coming.
Well, it just shows you how he thinks, right? Like this dumbass thought his money was gonna be good with Netflix, dude. Netflix. How there's not enough money in the world that you can give Netflix to not do, because Netflix has all the money in the world right now, right? They don't need your fucking money. They're not gonna sell this thing back to you, but it's crazy. I know of Edendale strategies because I am in the consulting business. My what I used to do is not used to, because I still, if the money's right and they need me on a project, I'll do something with a firm. But risk management is one of those things. Like if you're working for if you're a consultant, I don't work for individuals anymore. I would, if I'm more of a person that would do consulting for like a like say Papa John's, when John Schnatter did his crap, and he gets fired, and the company needs to be cleaned up. I come in and do stuff like that for a company with a team of people, and companies are a lot easier to deal with. Individuals are tough to deal with, especially in like the Twitter age and social media age, because all it takes is for them to be is like one drunken night and them to be near their phone, and all the work that you potentially do for them or that you do for them, they can undo it with one stupid tweet. So Vince McMahon is not a project I'd be willing to take on just from a credibility standpoint. Because there's like the thing about risk management and all that stuff too is, when it comes to individuals, if they're stupid, there's nothing you can do for them, because they're going to continue to do stupid stuff. You can't control stupid. Like R. Kelly doing that interview with Gayle King. Like, no firm told him to do that shit. Like, they probably said, hey, do the interview, but no one told him to go on there and have a fucking breakdown. That's something he did on his own. Like, this stuff with Vince is so just beyond him trying to give, like, you saw, like, once you gave them the rights, like, they're not taking the money back. They're not going to be like, no. Oh no, Netflix is too big to want or need your money at that point, right? And right now the documentary is number 4, so and it might even get up to number 1 this week.
That's that Jackson. I bet you they made some kind of weird deal. That's why it was only bad the last few episodes. Jack, I don't know if you saw the same series I did. This was bad from the minute go, from the first episode. Like they very much documented Vince McMahon being a cutthroat businessman and making deals and doing bad stuff from the minute go. Well, yes, there is reasons why. They did explain that he had a very troubling childhood. They talked about him potentially having, sexual abuse and child abuse when he was younger and having a really bad relationship with his father. But that's how you show a well done documentary, because they're showing all the different sides. It was not only bad in the last few episodes, because like I said, he said that shit about Rita Chatterton in the second episode. Episode. That was one of the most damning statements. Anything he said was bad. Like, that was one of the most damning statements, because that's something that came up years later when the statute of limitations was over, and he came back and haunted him.
Right, yeah, that was one of the clips I saw. I haven't seen one clip from this thing that really paints anybody in a good light. Like, someone posted a clip on Netflix of Stone Cold Steve Austin saying that he didn't believe in CTE. It's okay. This is a anti-intellectualism thing right here. Like, CTE isn't like the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus or even like God or something that you can choose to believe in or not believe in. CTE is a proven fact. It's a proven phenomena for athletes and people who've taken too many blows to the head, that this is something that can happen to you. What the fuck are we doing at this point? So the docuseries from the beginning, Vince McMahon doesn't look good in this thing at all. No. They didn't cut any kind of deal, because everybody in it, not everybody, but most of the clips I saw, everyone looks like a fucking idiot. I think this is the kind of stuff that makes me embarrassed to be a wrestling fan sometimes, is because I have to explain the beauty of wrestling in the midst of this kind of garbage.
Yeah. And like I said, we'll go more in depth about the Mr. McMahon docu-series. We'll do a show probably next Friday. Give everybody time to watch the all 6 episodes. Give you more than a week to watch all 6 episodes, and we'll do it on this coming Friday live stream, a full review of the docu-series, where we'll talk more about everything said and went over in the 6-part docu-series. Next up, you had in news, as previously reported, while AJ Styles has been absent from WWE TV in recent weeks, he is said to be healthy. Fightful Select reports that Styles has been enjoying his time off with his family. He did work the Japan live tour, and he hasn't been on WWE TV since Clash at the Castle. It's believed that his WWE contract will expire at the end of the year or early next year. There's no word on if WWE has tried to re-sign him yet or what his plans are. Fightful noted that, quote-unquote, numerous influential names in the business, including some who worked with Styles, believe the contract expires this year. It was announced, though, on last night's WWE SmackDown that AJ Styles will return to the show next Friday, but very interesting that WWE has offered a new deal to Kevin Owens, whose contract is set to expire at the end of the year, but haven't confirmed. It hasn't been reported that they offered a new deal to AJ Styles. What do you think? Do you think AJ Styles will have his deal expire and maybe retire? Or will he have his deal expired and maybe hear a call from AEW and kind of play both sides together? We've been talking about a lot with these contract deals expiring, going into free agency. What do you think AJ Styles' lane should be?
Yeah, I could see him letting his contract expire and hearing what AEW has to say. I think I'm not one of those people that thinks just because someone is old that you like put them out to pastures. Like 40. How old is he at right now? 40.
I think he's like 48.
Yeah,
That's.
I mean, these cats are like, he looks good. You can do.
He's
something
47.
40. Yeah, you could do something with a 47-year-old for like 5 years and get some mileage out of him. That's not beyond the pale, you know. It's so I think he's gonna do what he wants to do. Of course, he's not gonna be the AJ style, the TNA AJ Styles ever again, but there's value in him. I don't think you just put him out to pasture. I mean, here's the thing too. Back in the 90s, WWE put a lot of top stars out to pasture that they thought were old and stuff, and they went to WCW, and WCW did crazy ratings. If WCW was smart, they would have been able to like maintain that stuff. But I mean, I think if you do it right, you should keep the older guys and have them be a bridge to the younger guys. You don't just get rid of somebody because they're like, oh, they're 48 or whatever. You kind of you ride the wave, in my opinion.
Brooklyn Bleak in the chat. Good to see you, good brother. Haven't seen you in the chat in a few days or a few weeks. He could retire after another TNA championship run, since WWE and TNA are working together. Then he could accept the TNA Hall of Fame induction. LOL. Man, this guy is going to be a WWE Hall of Famer, a TNA Hall of Famer. But I think he still has, like Chris is saying, I think he still has more in the tank. And he proved that this year with his matches with Cody Rhodes, his match in Noah in Japan with Narumichi Marufuji. AJ still has a lot left in the tank. That's why I think it would be interesting if he did hear an offer from AEW, who might possibly give him more or value him a little bit more than WWE does. And we could see maybe a year or two in AEW where he reunites with the Young Bucks. Maybe we finally get the payoff to his exit from New Japan, and we get AJ Styles versus Kenny Omega in an AEW ring, or AJ Styles versus Will Ospreay one more time. And there's a much different Will Ospreay than the Ospreay he faced back in 2015 that he would be facing here. So there's a lot of tantalizing matches for him in AEW, and it's also a place where he would get like a 6-7 figure deal.
Yeah. I'd say 7. I think TK would go to, would add the extra digit to him. He'd get the 7, I believe.
Yeah. He seems like that type who would. Brooklyn Blake says, he value him more like AEW did with Samoa Joe. Always these guys that are from that 2000s, 2010s era, who were big stars outside of WWE. Your Samoa Joes, your CM Punks, your Bryan Danielson, AJ Styles is right in line with those guys, and those guys have gotten really big pushes and big top stars for AEW, and AJ Styles will be another one.
And Samoa Joe is an interesting one too, because I think if is this a contract year for Samoa Joe?
I'm not too certain. I know he came into AEW in 2022, so he either signed maybe a 3-year deal or a 5-year deal. So if it's a 3-year deal, his deal probably expires next year.
Right. So if Joe comes on the contract year, I could easily see Triple H wanting to break bread with him. You know, he's a guy that Vince McMahon never knew what to do with, man. And you could get some mileage out of Joe. Like AJ Styles is gonna be fine. I think if he I wouldn't mind if he stays in WWE, but I do see him playing both sides.
As he should. Dave Meltzer had an update on the report that we talked about last week with SmackDown possibly moving to 3 hours. On Tuesday's Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer reported that while the 3-hour SmackDown isn't 100% done deal, he stated that WWE is certainly in negotiations for adding the 3rd hour to SmackDown. He added that it's a better than 50% chance that it will happen. Meltzer indicated that WWE is looking to get more money from USA Network and parent company NBC Universal, since the original broadcast deal was for a 2-hour edition of SmackDown. He continued that the original deal was definitely a 2-hour, and now they're discussing a 3-hour show. So it's all about more money for WWE, more money for USA Network. That's what I said. I think it's gonna happen. It's gonna be a 3-hour show, but in general,
right? Yeah, and I do like that new logo too. Yeah, it's gonna be a 3-hour show because, like you said, it's more money. What happens to NXT on the CW? What night would that move to? Because I don't think they go head to head.
No, the NXT is on Tuesday.
So NXT is on Tuesday, and then when would would they keep SmackDown?
SmackDown's gonna be yeah, it's still gonna be Friday.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a big ask for people, man. Like, it's easy to watch that on like 2 hours of it before you go to the club and do all the stuff that you need to do. 3 hours is I don't know. I mean, try it, go ahead and do it, but I mean, I would try to get it to another night of the week if I was going to extend it 3 hours.
That is fair. And then finally, before we get into Monday Night Raw this week, SummerSlam will officially become a 2-night event next year as WWE announced the location and dates for the show. It will happen at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey on August 2nd and 3rd. Additionally, hip-hop star Cardi B helped WWE with the announcement, appearing in a promo video with Bianca Belair announcing the news. She wrote on social media, "Here's to the streets and to my girl at Bianca Belair, WWE. SummerSlam 2 nights, MetLife Stadium, August 2nd and 3rd at WWE. #SummerSlam. Fightful Select reports that WWE wanted to use Cardi B in 2021 for SummerSlam, where they would have used one of her songs and have her make an appearance. However, she announced her pregnancy in June of that year, and the plans were put on hold. The report notes that WWE also reached out to Mike Tyson and Megan Thee Stallion for that year. It is noted that WWE is seeking to use more mainstream stars for their programming and pay-per-view announcements going forward. So I expect Cardi B to be a part of SummerSlam in MetLife Stadium, probably as a guest host, if not. But hey, Cardi B, Megan Thee Stallion's working with WWE. A lot of rock-obsessed wrestling fans going to be upset. I'm happy for that.
Yeah, that's cool, and I'm glad that they have New Jersey, because usually in these titles, when it's at MetLife Stadium, they market it as New York, New Jersey. It's weird to see only New Jersey in the thing. But yeah, man. I see Cardi B being at SummerSlam next year.
For sure. Then we move over to WWE SmackDown. The show did 1.339 million viewers. The show featured Jey Uso defeating Braun Breaker in what was a terrific main event to win the WWE Intercontinental Championship. Jey Uso's first WWE singles title of his 14-year career. Rhea Ripley announced that Dominic Mysterio will be locked in a shark cage during her women's world title matchup against Liv Morgan at WWE Bad Blood. Sami Zayn picked up a win against Ludwig Kaiser in a very good opener to the show. Post-match, Gunther came out to tease that he was going to face Sami right there and right now, only to tell him that the answer for a world heavyweight title match is still a no. American Made picked up the win over New Day in a good bout. Post-match, Xavier Woods once again snapped, this time at Rey Mysterio, to set up a matchup for next week. Man, so Drew McIntyre cut a great promo to hype the Hell in a Cell match against CM Punk at Bad Blood, promising to make him bleed. But that kind of parlays into our first bit of news, talking about Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. USA Network recently published an article stating that the Hell in a Cell matchup would be the main event for Bad Blood. However, according to Fightful Select, Monday, the internal plan as of last week was for Roman Reigns and undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes versus the Bloodline, Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu to be the closing match at the Premium Live event. PW Insider had an update on the main event situation, noting that the match that will headline Bad Blood was a major topic of discussion backstage at Raw this week. According to PW Insider's update, certain circles within WWE have been pushing for Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes headlining the event. The match will feature the two teaming up for the first time ever in a city that's significant to both men, with Atlanta being Cody's hometown and it being the city where Roman Reigns played college football, hence why some people are pushing for their match to headline the show. It said that the initial plan several months ago was to build the Premium Live event on it being the anniversary of the first Hell in a Cell matchup at Bad Blood that took place on the same date in 1997. The plan was to reportedly have the Hell in a Cell match close the show, much like it did the inaugural Bad Blood event in 1997. Additionally, PW Insider reports that the final decision on the main event has not yet been made, but what do you think, Chris? What do you think should headline Bad Blood next Saturday? Should it be Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes, the two top stars in all of WWE, teaming up together to face the Bloodline? Or should it be the Hell in a Cell matchup between CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, culminating their 10-month rivalry?
I put Drew and CM Punk only because that's a singles match, you know. I don't know, like, and a lot of that stuff usually would be indicative of the booking, right? Like if the baby faces are gonna, if McIntyre's winning the Hell in a Cell, I'd put that second to last. If Drew and Cody, not Drew and Cody, if Cody and Roman are winning that main event, I'd put that last, or that match, I'd put that last. It really just depends on how they want to book it.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I would think that the Hell in a Cell matchup should be the main event because you've been building this rivalry for 10 months. It's been one of the best rivalries in WWE. And what the hell is going to follow what they're building for this Hell in a Cell matchup? You know, both men are promising blood. This feels like the first time in like a decade they've really built the danger that is Hell in a Cell, and it would feel appropriate in the main event spot. But I also understand why there's some people backstage pushing for Roman and Cody to main event because they are the top two stars in this company. Like they're 1A, 1B. So I understand both kind of sides of the spectrum, but I think that that main event should be Hell in a Cell. No, regardless of who's winning, I think the main event should be Hell in a Cell. Hell in a Cell is the type of stipulation, especially because you're building it not off of, you know, the title of the show being Hell in a Cell. You're building it off of this rivalry feels appropriate for Hell in a Cell. So it feels appropriate to also put that in the main event.
And if it's the last match like they're saying it's gonna be, then yeah, that if it's the like stamp of this feud, then yeah, it should be in the main event.
Yeah, that's an interesting logistics thing, Savette. I don't know how they're going to figure that out, but we shall see with the Shark Cage and a Hell in a Cell. What did you think about Jey Uso winning his first WWE singles title on Monday Night Raw against Braun Breaker?
So I checked my Twitter this morning and last night when I got home from work, and I think they did the right thing. Here's the thing with this Jey Uso stuff. They eventually had to have him win the belt. I understand people are online. A lot of people are bitching. Oh, Braun Breaker is he's the guy. He should be running over everybody and stuff. Jey Uso has literally fought for these singles belts like how many times? It feels like 900.
He lost six times in title matches before Monday.
Right. So he's eventually he had to win one, you know. because you can't keep doing, because what happens if you keep doing that, you're just gonna be like, oh, this is the guy that's not gonna win. He's the guy that's gonna keep losing. So whatever. And you can't count on people to be invested in a guy that you always have like as a bridesmaid and never the bride. So I think him having Jey Uso winning is good. I think this builds to the Royal Rumble because you need a good amount of guys that you think could possibly win the Royal Rumble. And I think it's good to have Jey Uso in that mix. I'm not saying he's going to win the Royal Rumble, but it doesn't hurt to have him in that mix. Braun Breaker is going to be around for a minute. It doesn't hurt him. I think the last, like the Vince McMahon era has a lot of us thinking that, oh, if anything happens to anybody, if anybody loses, it's just going to destroy him. I don't think like that. I think Jey Uso is the hot guy. He's been hot for a while, and he eventually needed to see the fruits of his labor.
We are in agreement there. WWE Raw is set to debut on Netflix in January, on January 6th, and it seems the location has been decided. The Wrestling Observer newsletter reports there has been a lot of talk that the episode will take place from Southern California, with Los Angeles the most likely candidate. This past Monday, there were several Netflix employees in attendance, sitting in the first few rows because the show took place in Ontario, California. Netflix is based in Los Angeles and Los Gatos, which is a San Jose market. And there was also talk of doing NXT in the same building on the following night. Meanwhile, the last bit of news we got before going into NXT, Fightful Select provided an update on the whereabouts of WWE star Shinsuke Nakamura. The report notes that Nakamura is in the similar boat of AJ Styles right now. Nakamura is said to be doing fine and healthy, but he's not being featured on WWE programming. Nakamura recently worked some of WWE's international tour dates in Europe and Japan. He was featured in various matchups against the likes of Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles, LA Knight, Ludwig Kaiser, Sheamus, and Ilya Dragunov, depending on the event. During one of the Japan shows, he teamed with Kevin Owens against the Bloodline. And currently, Shinsuke Nakamura isn't appearing on WWE TV for whatever reason. It appears that creative has nothing for him right now. So it seems like the rumors that they only used Nakamura at the end of last year and gave him a push was because they wanted to sign Kazuchika Okada. It seems like that was correct from how they used him in 2024.
It does seem like that. I feel bad for Shinsuke because he never hit his full potential in WWE, which sucks because I thought he was easily going to be a main eventer in the company, but it's just one of those he's a Japanese guy kind of things, and they don't want to do what they should have probably done with him. But I'm afraid he's in that boat with guys that's like, if he goes to AEW, he'll be in the same position that he's in WWE. So it's like, you know, what are you gonna do at this point, man? I hate to tell somebody to be grateful that you got a job, but I mean, you know, I think, you know, Shinsuke has hit his ceiling in the United States of America, unfortunately.
Yeah, it feels like he hit it a few years ago too. We do have a super sticker from Chuck Berry, is a $20 super sticker. Thank you so much, Chuck Berry.
Awesome.
Appreciate that type of support. One of our big supporters here on the channel, so always appreciate you for that. And then we had finally from WWE NXT this week. They did 620,000 viewers. The show featured press conferences ahead of their CW premiere episode coming up next week, with the final one featuring Roxanne Perez and Julia for their NXT Women's Championship matchup that ended with Stephanie Vaquer interrupting to say she is coming for the winner of this match. The Grayson Waller effect had the NXT Tag Team Champions Axiom and Nathan Frazier on it, with Waller and Austin Theory trying to pit the champions against one another, only for the former WWE Tag Team Champions to stand tall after attacking the baby faces they will face next week. But A-Town Down Under picked up a victory on this show against Cedric Alexander and Javon Evans in a decent main event. Ridge Holland picked up another victory against Chase U, defeating O'Reilly Osborne in a solid bout. Post-match, the two men brawled until officials separated them. Hank and Tank beat the OC in tag team action, while Kalani Jordan defeated Ren Sinclair to retain the NXT Women's North American Championship. And in a bit of NXT news, there's long been talk about Hikaleo's whereabouts since signing with WWE, and he has reportedly officially signed, and a new report has details on WWE's plans for him. As reported back in July, the NJPW alum has reportedly signed with the company, though WWE has not yet confirmed that. PW Insider Elite reports that he has been added to the internal roster for NXT. There's no word on when Hikuleo may debut for the brand or whether he will keep the name of Hikuleo as of now. Hikuleo is the son of Haku and the brother of the Bloodline members Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. He exited New Japan Pro Wrestling in June of this year, but very interesting that he's been added to the internal roster for NXT. Do you think that's the best thing for his career, to start off on NXT instead of joining his brothers on the main roster?
It'd probably be. I think if he joins his brothers on the main roster, I think he'd be fine. I think on NXT, Shawn Michaels will know what to do with him, though. I think he has a better shot of not getting lost in the shuffle on NXT.
I agree there. I think that this is kind of the way that they did with Solo Sikoa. Solo Sikoa started off on NXT before he eventually got called up to the main roster, and it was better for his career in the long term. I think that Hikuleo still needs some developing, some improving on his game. So being on NXT for a couple of months to a year will help him when he eventually gets called up and joins his brothers, probably in the Bloodline.
Yeah, I agree.
And then finally, we had TNA Impact this week. The show featured Joe Hendry defeating Frankie Kazarian in a solid main event to become the #1 contender to face Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Championship at Bound for Glory next month. You also had Jordan Grace and NXT's Sol Ruca beat Rosemary and Wendy True via disqualification after outside interference from Tasha Steelz. Post-match, the heels beat down Grace and Ruca until Masha Slamovich made the save. Zachary Wentz and ABC defeated Leon Slater, Kushida, and Speedball Mike Bailey in a fun trios matchup. Post-match, ABC stated that they wanted to invoke their rematch clause against the system for the TNA World Tag Team Championships until the Hardys stepped up to challenge them to determine who will get the next shot. So we'll have more to talk about from TNA as they're building up to Bound for Glory next month in October in Detroit, Michigan. So a lot to look forward over there. But we've made it to Chrissy Love's usual favorite time of the show. Chris, our best and worst of the week, as well as match of the week. I know you haven't been on here in a while, so best and worst of the week is who we basically thought had the best week and who had the worst week. So that could be in kayfabe, that could be someone who won a championship, someone who won had the best match of the week. You could give them the best of the week, and whoever had the worst week, whether it be from the news, whether it be a loss, whether it be in kayfabe or outside of the ring, that is your worst of the week. So my best of the week, I think I'm going to give it to Jey Uso for winning his first singles title in WWE after 14 years. And worst of the week, I'm going to keep it in WWE, and I'm going to give it to Vince McMahon.
Right. Yeah, I think we're all on accord here.
Who is your best and worst of the week?
Yeah, I'm giving the worst of the week easily to Vince McMahon. I don't think anybody even comes close. His hubris, his ego. It always gets in the way with that fool. And then the best of the week is for me, Jey Uso as well. Just, he finally, he got those whack ass "you deserve it" chants. Probably my least favorite chant from wrestling crowds, but he does deserve it. And I'm looking forward to seeing where he's gonna be at when it's Royal Rumble time in a few months. I want to see if he's in a position where you can finally take him serious as main event Jey Uso.
Good point there. A couple of people also agreeing with us here. Eric Isaac says, best of the week, Jey Uso, worst of the week, Vince. Power Driver Finisher says, WWE didn't entertain me this week. Well, that's fair. That's fair. You're entitled to that. We got Safed who says, worst, Vince McMahon. So a lot of people in agreement here. Agreements there for sure. But then you also got our matches of the week. So this could be one match, 3 matches, or 5 matches that you think stood out from the week, as we usually do here on the show. As usual, I probably have too many matches, but I have 5 this week. I only got 5. I usually have like 10, Chris. So I'm doing better on numbering it down. So my best 5 matches of the week. Number 5 for me, Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes from SmackDown last night. Excellent bout they had. Number 4, Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness. I thought that it was brilliant technical wrestling, the great selling of Bryan at Grand Slam. Number 3 for me this week, Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker from Raw. Probably Jey Uso's best match of 2024 so far was that matchup. Number 2 for me, Jon Moxley versus Darby Allin from Grand Slam. Darby Allin, I feel like he's going to kill himself for our entertainment, and I love him for it. And number 1 for me this week, easy. I think this is by far number 1. Young Bucks versus Will Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher from Grand Slam. A spectacular, phenomenal tag team match and one of the best tag team matches of the year. Chris, what about you? Any matches you want to mention?
Right, yeah. So I do think the Young Bucks match was very good. But I'm gonna go with Jay. Well, there's so many different ones this week because I didn't watch the shows as a whole, but I did like speed watch the matches, and I am gonna go with, I want to give it to Moxley and Darby, but I just don't like them booking Darby to be if I really would have won. I really did want him to win that match, so that's what makes it hard for me to give it to him. But I am gonna give it to my boy Desmond Wolf because I saw him last year in Los Angeles. He did this comedy show, and then he appeared on I think he did AEW something last year. So it's good to see him and Daniel Bryan and the trajectory of those two. Like, it was sad because they got signed to WWE at the same time, but then not what's
Brian.
His name? I just not Brian.
Nigel
McGuinness, Desmond Wolf. He had that medical thing going on with him, so he couldn't go to WWE. So he had to go to TNA, and it was just a sad state of affairs. So to see him kind of get his time back and wrestle in that match, and kind of see that he's still good and he's still in shape and all that, really does my heart good. So I have to give that as my match of the week.
Indeed there. And we're going to finish off with rapid fire predictions for tomorrow morning's big event from New Japan Pro Wrestling. We're only doing the top 4 matches on this card as far as predictions, but we will tell you the rest of the card. NJPW Destruction in Kobe, their first big event since the G1 Climax 34 tournament concluded in August for New Japan Pro Wrestling. You got a 6-man tag team matchup. Yuji Nagata, Honma, and Tiger Mask will be versing Shoto Umino, Rasuke Taguchi, and Dragon Daya. You also got Los Ingonables de Japón versus United Empire in a 6-man tag team matchup. Hiroki Goto versus Gabe Kidd. That should be a hard-hitting clash, as well as TMDK, Zack Sabre Jr., Kosei Fujita, and a mystery partner will verse just 5 guys, Sanada, Taichi, and Takami Shinoku. Never openweight 6-man tag team titles. You got Bolton Oleg, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and Toru Yano versus the House of Torture. And then we got our first match we can give predictions for here for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship is going to be Doki defending against Yoshinobu Kanemaru. These two men are former tag team partners. Kanemaru attacked Doki after his last title defense against Ishimori. I'm going with Doki here. Who you got, Chris?
I'll go with Doki. I haven't watched any New Japan this month, like in the last 3 months, so I have to kind of go with whatever you say, and once I know the match, I'll be able to make a prediction. But sorry about that.
No worries at all. This one should be interesting, though. The Never Openweight Championship up for grabs, as it's going to be Hanare versus the man he won the title from, Shingo Takagi. These two men have battled throughout 2024 in various bouts for the Never Openweight Championship. Hanare coming off the heels of his victory over Hiromu Takahashi on the road to destruction. So another LIJ member. Who you got here?
Hanare.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Hanare is going to retain his title here. Then we got for the IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship is going to be Yoshihashi challenging David Finlay. David Finlay coming off the heels of the semifinals of the G1 Climax. He lost a 6-man tag team matchup to Hashi, but I think it's obvious David Finlay retains here. Who do you think wins?
Yeah, David Finlay. He's the most, like, I've been hearing buzz about him the most, so I'll go with Finlay.
And then we got finally for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship, Tetsuya Naito will basically defend against Great Okan. It was Great Okan who beat Naito in the G1 Climax to eliminate him before the playoffs. The winner of this matchup will go on to defend the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Zack Sabre Jr. next month at King of Pro Wrestling, as Zack will basically be challenging thanks to his win in the G1 Climax tournament. I'm going to go with Naito to retain, but I think this is a big opportunity for Great Okan. Chris, who you got?
I will go with the Great Okan just to be different.
Fair. It's fair. Great Okan has been pushing this hard. He represents the new generation of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he thinks that Naito is pretty much done. So we'll see what happens tomorrow morning. NJPWWorld.com is New Japan Destruction in Kobe. We will be back here on the Tru Heel Heat new YouTube channel on Monday to review that show, but I'll be live tomorrow to review Collision tonight with Collision Grand Slam on Collision Discourse tomorrow. But Chris, thank you so much for joining me, my good brother. You are always one of my favorite co-hosts to have on this show, whether we're doing a AEW pay-per-view or talking about everything like we always do on the flagship here. But you do great work with one of the best podcasts around, something that I listen to every month when you guys are on, no matter if it's like 5 hours, 6 hours long. N.W.A. podcast is one of the best in the world. But let everybody know where they can follow you on social media and when you'll be back on the N.W.A. podcast.
So we do the third Sunday of every month on the N.W.A. podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at KMEasyDoesIt. I'm super busy right now, so I'm not tweeting like I normally do. But and then there's gonna be, you can also listen to me on Kings of Sport And we're actually in the middle of doing something big with Kings of Sport. I can't talk about it right now, but stay on the lookout for that. And yeah, that's what I got going on.
Thank you as always, Kris. Put the invite out here. I think I did it on the All Out review, but we want to have you back on for Wrestle Dream next month. So Wrestle Dream review, that would be on a Sunday. So I think you might be free. So I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, I'll be free on Sunday. So yeah, just hit me up. And if you need me for that McMahon thing, I'll try to make some time and watch that too, man.
Please.
Yeah.
We're doing that next Friday. I would love to have you on for that. Like that's gonna be a bunch of fun. But yes, you can follow me on the Twitter machine at Tru Heel SP3. You can follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Tru Heel Heat. Patreon.com/Tru Heel Heat. $3 a month gets you exclusive content. I believe we're going to be doing individual episode reviews of the McMahon Netflix docuseries throughout the week, building up to our big review of the entire series live here on the Tru Heel Heat YouTube channel. So that's a good time to get your subscription for our Patreon over there, because we'll be doing that. And the best place to support us when we are not live here, I will be live tomorrow to review Collision Discourse. I also will be on the Mark Hoke show. Shout out to Mark Hoke for joining us today. I'm going to be joining him to talk about some wrestling on his radio show and podcast tomorrow. So go over there and subscribe to his YouTube channel. And I'll also be live on the Tru Heel Heat Sports and Entertainment YouTube channel, because we're going to be reviewing Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4, Episode 9, the penultimate episode. And I'll be joined by Grap's Knowledge of Wrestlings. He's going to be joining me to review that show over there. So a lot of content from Tru Heel Heat to enjoy over the next couple of weeks, whether here on the Sports and Entertainment channel, where we'll also have our watch party for the NFL tomorrow as well. But for Kris, it is me, your Tru Heel Phenom SP3. This has been Tru Heel Heat 296 Exposés and Hostage Situations. We are signing off until next time.